The coffee she didn't pay for cost him everything he thought was real. Logan Reed thought he'd stumbled into fate that morning at Harbor Grounds. A chance encounter. A woman with green eyes who looked at him like she already knew his name. He bought her coffee without thinking twice. She smiled just enough to keep him wondering. But fate doesn't research your company. Fate doesn't memorize your schedule. Fate doesn't calculate which cafe you'll choose when your usual one closes. Their love story started with a lie. And before you judge how it ends, follow this journey to the last word. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The alarm screamed at 5:47 a.m., 13 minutes before Logan actually needed to be awake, because he'd learned that those 13 minutes were the difference between functioning and falling apart. He slapped the phone screen twice before his thumb found the right spot, then lay there in the dark listening to the radiator clank and his daughter's breathing through the thin wall. Emma was 8. She breathed heavy when she slept, mouth open probably, the way her mother used to. Logan tried not to think about that. Tried not to do the math on how long it had been since the accident. 23 months. Almost 2 years of single parenting, of figuring out braids and permission slips and why the hell third-grade social dynamics felt more complicated than corporate mergers. He sat up, feet hitting cold hardwood, and grabbed yesterday's jeans from the chair. The apartment was small enough that he could see the kitchen from the bedroom if he left both doors open. Small enough that rent still ate 40% of his paycheck. Small enough that Emma said it was cozy, which meant she'd already learned to lie to make him feel better. The shower was lukewarm. The hot water heater had maybe 5 good minutes in it before it gave up, so Logan had learned to soap fast and rinse faster. He dressed in the steam, button-up and slacks that were clean enough, and checked his phone while his hair dripped onto his collar. 2 emails from work already. It was barely 6 in the morning. He made Emma's lunch first. Turkey sandwich, apple slices, the string cheese she'd eat maybe half of, then stood in front of the coffee maker and realized they were out. Completely out. He'd meant to buy more yesterday, had even written it on the list stuck to the fridge, but yesterday had been report deadlines and Emma's school calling because she'd gotten into it with some kid named Brandon over tetherball rules. Dad? Emma stood in the doorway wearing mismatched pajamas, her hair a disaster that would take 10 minutes and half a bottle of detangler to fix. Morning, Bug. You sleep okay? She shrugged, which meant no, but she didn't want to talk about it. The nightmares came and went. Grief counselor said that was normal. Logan wasn't sure what normal meant anymore. We out of coffee? Yeah, I'll grab some on the way to work. The place with the cat poster? Probably. Riverside Roast, 2 blocks from the office, where the barista with the nose ring knew his order and never spelled his name wrong on the cup. Routine. Logan lived on routine now. Emma climbed onto the kitchen stool and started picking at her thumbnail, which meant something was coming. He waited, pulling out the cereal. Brandon said his mom said that my mom was... Brandon's mom doesn't know what she's talking about. Logan's voice came out harder than he meant. He poured the cereal, added milk, set it in front of her. Whatever she said, it's not true, and it's not her business. Emma looked at her bowl. Okay. Hey. He waited until she looked up. You're going to hear stuff. People talk because they don't know better. But you know the truth about your mom, right? She loved you more than anything. I know. Emma took a bite of cereal, chewed slowly. Can I watch cartoons? 20 minutes, then teeth and hair. She slid off the stool and disappeared into the living room. Logan heard the TV click on, some bright, cheerful theme song that matched nothing about how he felt. He dumped his own cereal, ate it standing at the counter, and tried not to look at the photo stuck to the fridge with an apple magnet. Emma, age 6, gap-toothed and grinning, held up by a woman with dark hair and a smile that used to make Logan feel like he'd won something. He looked anyway. He always did. 7:15. They needed to leave by 7:45, which gave him exactly 30 minutes to turn Emma's hair into something the school wouldn't comment on, and find matching shoes and locate the homework folder that had vanished somewhere between the dining table and the black hole under her bed. The routine got them out the door at 7:48, close enough. Emma's backpack was too heavy, and her shoes lit up when she walked, little red flashes with each step. She held his hand crossing the street even though she'd recently announced she was too old for that. Logan didn't argue. He'd hold her hand until she physically pulled away, and maybe even after that. The elementary school was 6 blocks. Just far enough that driving seemed stupid, but walking felt long. They passed the bodega where the owner always gave Emma a lollipop, the bus stop where the same three people stood every morning staring at their phones, the corner where someone had painted a mural of a whale that Emma said looked sad. "You think whales get lonely?" she asked. "Maybe. They're smart. Smart things feel more." "Is that why you're sad a lot? Because you're smart?" Logan looked down at her. She was watching her shoes flash, not looking at him, but her hand squeezed his a little tighter. "I'm not sad a lot." "Dad." "Okay, sometimes, but that's different." "Because of Mom." "Yeah, Bug, because of Mom." They walked another block in silence. A woman jogged past with a dog that Emma turned to watch, smiling when it wagged. "I miss her more on Tuesdays," Emma said. Logan's throat closed up. "Why Tuesdays?" "I don't know. They just feel like her days." He didn't have words for that, so he squeezed her hand back and they finished the walk without talking. The school was already chaos, kids everywhere, parents doing the drop-off shuffle. Logan walked Emma to her classroom door, kissed her forehead when she allowed it, watched her disappear into the bright, loud world of 8-year-olds. Then he stood there maybe 10 seconds too long, until another parent gave him a look that said, "Move along," and he did. The office was downtown, 30-minute train ride that Logan spent staring at his phone without seeing it. Work emails, project updates, someone asking about reports he'd filed last week. His job was data analysis for a mid-sized consulting firm that handled logistics for companies too big to remember their employees' names. Logan was good at it. Good at finding patterns, spotting problems before they became disasters, making spreadsheets that told stories nobody wanted to hear. It paid okay. Not great, but okay. Enough for the apartment and Emma's school supplies and the savings account he was supposed to be building, but kept rating for things like new winter coats and dentist appointments. The train rattled through tunnels that all looked the same. Logan thought about coffee. He could taste it already, that first bitter, perfect sip that made the morning feel manageable. Riverside Roast would be crowded this time of day, but the line moved fast, and he had 20 minutes before he needed to be at his desk. Except when he turned the corner onto Riverside, there was a sign on the door. Closed for renovations. Opening November 15th. Logan stood there holding his empty travel mug like an idiot. November 15th was 2 weeks away. 2 weeks without his routine, without the nose-ring barista who knew his order, without the corner table where he sometimes sat for 10 minutes pretending to answer emails while actually just breathing. "Damn it," a guy walking past gave him a look. Logan didn't care. He checked his phone. 12 minutes now. The Starbucks 3 blocks north would be a zoo, all tourists in business suits. There was a deli 2 blocks south that had coffee, but it tasted like regret. Or he could just go to the office, use the break room Keurig that made something technically coffee-like, but mostly just hot and brown. Or Harbor Grounds. He'd passed it before. One of those places that looked too deliberately cozy, all exposed brick and hanging plants and chalkboard menus. Probably overpriced, probably full of people having loud laptop meetings. But it was 1 block east, which meant 1 block out of his way, which meant he'd be late, but only by a few minutes. Logan walked. The morning was sharp and clear, that specific October cold that wasn't quite winter, but close enough to make you wish you'd grabbed a better jacket. The city smelled like exhaust and someone's cigarette and something baking from the bakery on the corner. Logan's breath came out in small clouds. His fingers were numb around the travel mug. Harbor Grounds sat on a corner lot, big windows facing both streets, the kind of place that probably looked amazing in real estate photos. The sign was hand-painted wood, classy without trying too hard. Through the window, Logan could see maybe a dozen people, mostly alone, mostly on laptops. Quieter than he'd expected. He pushed through the door and warm air hit him immediately, carrying the smell of coffee and something vanilla. The space was bigger than it looked from outside. High ceilings with industrial fixtures, mismatched furniture that somehow worked. Music played low, something acoustic and forgettable. Behind the counter, a guy with a man bun was pulling espresso shots like he was conducting surgery. Logan got in line. 3 people ahead of him. He pulled out his phone, checked the time. 8 minutes. He could make this work. The line moved. He ordered large coffee, black, room for cream, and paid with the card that had $11 left before he needed to transfer more from savings. The man bun guy nodded like Logan had passed some kind of test and turned to the espresso machine. Logan stepped aside to wait, scanning the room out of habit. The people-watching instinct he'd never quite shaken, even after years behind a desk. Old woman by the door reading an actual newspaper. Two college kids sharing headphones over a textbook. Guy in a suit typing with the intensity of someone who'd already had too much caffeine. And her, by the window, alone at a small table, laptop open, but she wasn't looking at it. She was looking at him. Logan's brain did that thing where it tried to place a face and came up empty. Did he know her? She didn't look familiar, but the way she was watching him felt familiar somehow. Intentional. Like she'd been waiting. She was maybe 30, dark hair pulled back, green eyes that were visible even from across the room. Professional, but not corporate. Nice sweater, simple jewelry, the kind of put together that took effort to look effortless. Pretty in a way that made you look twice, but it was the stare that kept Logan's attention. She didn't look away when he caught her watching, just held his gaze for 3 seconds that felt longer, then smiled. Not a friendly smile. Something more complicated. Something that said, I know something you don't. Then she went back to her laptop like nothing happened. Logan stood there like an idiot until Man Bun Guy called out large black and handed him the cup. Logan took it, added cream from the station by the wall, and tried not to look at the window table again. He looked anyway. She was typing now, fingers fast on the keyboard, totally absorbed, or pretending to be. Logan couldn't tell. The morning light through the window caught her face at an angle that made her look softer than that stare had suggested. He had 8 minutes to get to the office. Probably 6 now. He should leave. He should walk out the door and forget about the woman who looked at him like she already knew the ending to a story he hadn't started yet. Instead, he walked over. Excuse me. She looked up, no surprise in her expression, like she'd been expecting this. Yes? Logan had no idea what he was doing. I noticed you didn't have a drink. Her eyebrow raised slightly. And I was going to offer to buy you one, if you want. You don't have to. He stopped himself before he could say something stupider. Never mind. Sorry for bothering you. He started to turn away and she said, Why? Logan turned back. Why what? Why offer to buy coffee for a stranger? She leaned back in her chair, studying him with that same intentional look. Is this how you usually spend your mornings? Random acts of caffeinated kindness? No, I don't know. You looked... He struggled for the right word. Focused, like you'd been working a while. Thought you might need fuel. Focused. She repeated the word like she was testing it. Interesting choice. Logan felt his face getting warm, which was ridiculous. He was 32 years old, not some teenager stumbling through a first date. Look, forget it. I should get to work anyway. What do you do? The question caught him off guard. Data analysis, consulting firm. It's boring. Is it? Very. She smiled then, a real one that changed her whole face. I'll take a cappuccino, dry if they know how to make it properly here. Logan blinked. Okay, sure. Yeah. He walked back to the counter, feeling her eyes on him the whole way. Ordered the cappuccino, dry, watched Man Bun Guy nod approvingly again like Logan was collecting points. Paid another $6 he didn't really have. Waited while the espresso machine hissed and steamed. His phone buzzed. Work. He ignored it. The cappuccino came out in a white cup with foam art that looked like a leaf or maybe a heart. Logan couldn't tell. He carried it carefully back to the window table where she'd already closed her laptop, hands folded on top like she was conducting an interview. One dry cappuccino. Logan set it down. I hope it's up to your standards. She picked it up, examined the foam, took a small sip. Acceptable. High praise. I don't believe in false compliments. She took another sip, watching him over the rim. Are you going to sit or just hover awkwardly? I should probably... Sit, Logan. His stomach dropped. How did you... She gestured to his travel mug sitting on the edge of her table where he'd set it down without thinking. His name was written on the side in Sharpie, Emma's handwriting from a crafts project 3 months ago. She'd drawn a stick figure next to it, labeled Dad. Right, the mug. Logan pulled out the chair and sat, feeling stupid. Sorry, I thought... I don't know what I thought. That I was psychic? That we'd met before and you'd forgotten? She set down the cappuccino. Common assumptions when someone knows your name unexpectedly. Do you do this a lot? Read strangers' coffee mugs? I pay attention to details. It's part of my job. Which is? Boring. She said it with the same inflection he'd used earlier, mocking him gently. CEO of a logistics company. Very dry. Lots of spreadsheets. Logan laughed before he could stop himself. Spreadsheets aren't dry. Spoken like a true data analyst. They tell stories, patterns, show you where things are breaking before anyone notices. Exactly. She leaned forward slightly, which is why boring people think they're boring. They don't see the narrative. Logan realized he was smiling, actually smiling, not the careful version he used at work or the tired one he wore at home. I'm Logan Reed, but you already knew that. Avery Monroe. She didn't offer her hand. And I didn't know it. I guessed it. Different thing. Guessed from a mug. And context clues, the way you ordered your coffee like you were late for something important but not important enough to skip caffeine. The wedding ring tan line you're trying to hide. Her eyes flicked to his left hand. The fact that you're sitting here instead of rushing off. You wanted an excuse. Logan's hand went unconsciously to his ring finger, where the skin was still slightly paler even after almost 2 years. You got all that from watching me order coffee? I told you. I pay attention. Something in her voice made Logan's chest tight, not uncomfortable, just aware, like he'd walked into something already in motion and was trying to catch up. The ring, he started, then stopped. I was married, past tense. I'm sorry. Don't be. I mean, you didn't. He picked up his travel mug, put it down again. It's complicated. Most interesting things are. Avery took another sip of her cappuccino. The dry foam holds up better than I expected. You can tell your barista friend he passed. He's not my friend. I've never been here before. Really? She looked around the coffee shop like she was seeing it for the first time. Then why today? My usual place is closed. Renovations. Interesting. What's interesting about renovations? That you came here instead of the Starbucks 3 blocks north or the deli 2 blocks south. Both closer to where you work based on the direction you came from. But you chose Harbor Grounds. She tilted her head slightly. Why? Logan felt like he was being dissected. I don't know. It looked less crowded. It looked different, Avery corrected. You wanted different today, even if you didn't know it. Are you always this? Logan searched for the right word. Intense? Direct? Unsettling? She smiled. Yes. I was going to say observant. That too. Logan's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it. 3 messages now, all from his boss. He should go. He was definitely late, and every minute he sat here drinking coffee with a stranger who read him like a spreadsheet was another minute of explanation he'd owe later. You should get to work, Avery said, like she'd read his mind, before boring becomes unemployed. Yeah. Logan stood, picked up his mug. Thanks for the conversation, and sorry for the ambush cappuccino. Don't apologize. It was good cappuccino. She opened her laptop again, dismissing him efficiently. Maybe I'll see you around. Maybe. Logan walked out of Harbor Grounds feeling strange, like he'd just had a conversation in a language he didn't quite speak but somehow understood. The cold air hit his face, and he realized he was still smiling. The office was 12 minutes away at a brisk walk. He made it in 10, took the elevator to the 7th floor, and slid into his cubicle at 9:17. Late enough to notice, not late enough to write up. His boss, Martin, looked over from 3 cubicles down and raised an eyebrow. Logan shrugged apologetically and opened his laptop. 74 emails. 18 required responses. 3 were flagged urgent from people who thought everything was urgent. Logan dove in, fingers on autopilot, but his brain kept drifting back to the coffee shop. To Avery Monroe, CEO of something logistics related, who drank dry cappuccinos and saw too much. The wedding ring tan line you're trying to hide. Logan looked at his hand. He'd stopped wearing the ring 14 months ago after Emma's therapist gently suggested that holding on to physical symbols might be holding on to grief in ways that weren't healthy. He'd put it in a drawer and felt like he'd amputated something. The tan line had faded slowly, barely visible now unless you knew to look. Avery had known to look. Lunch was a sandwich from the vending machine eaten at his desk while reviewing third-quarter logistics reports for a client he'd never met. The numbers told a story about supply chain delays and inventory miscalculations, But Logan couldn't focus. He kept thinking about spreadsheets telling stories, about boring people not seeing the narrative. At 2:30, his phone rang. Emma's school. His heart stopped the way it always did when they called midday. Mr. Reed? Hi, this is Principal Chen. Emma's fine, nothing's wrong, but we did have a small incident at recess. Logan closed his eyes. Brandon? Emma pushed him off the slide. Brandon's okay, just shaken up. Emma says he called her mom a name. We're still sorting out exactly what happened. I'll be there in 40 minutes. That's fine. She's in my office, calm but quiet. Logan grabbed his jacket and headed for the elevator. Martin called out something about the reports, but Logan pretended not to hear. The train ride back across town felt endless, every stop too long, every delay a personal insult. Emma sat in a plastic chair outside the principal's office, backpack at her feet, staring at her shoes. Not crying, that was good, or bad. Logan couldn't tell anymore. Hey, Bug. She looked up. I'm in trouble. I know. He sat next to her. Want to tell me what happened? Brandon said Mom was stupid for getting in the car that night. He said she should have known better. He said it was her fault. Emma's voice stayed flat, but her hands were shaking. So I pushed him. Logan's entire body went cold and hot at the same time. Okay. He fell off the slide, but he's fine. He's not hurt. Emma, I know I shouldn't push people. I know it's wrong. But Dad, he said, her voice cracked. He said it was her fault. Logan pulled her into a hug, felt her body shaking against his. I know, Bug. I know. Principal Chen appeared in the doorway, expression sympathetic but firm. They had a conversation about appropriate responses to hurtful comments, about using words instead of hands, about consequences and expectations. Emma nodded through all of it. Logan signed something. They went home. The apartment felt smaller than usual. Emma went straight to her room and closed the door. Logan stood in the kitchen listening to the silence and feeling the weight of every decision that had led here. Single father, dead wife, daughter who pushed kids off slides because grief didn't come with an instruction manual. He made dinner, spaghetti, the one thing he could cook without thinking, and knocked on Emma's door. Not hungry, she called. You have to eat something. Later, Logan left a plate outside her door and ate his own, standing at the counter. The spaghetti tasted like cardboard, but he finished it anyway, then washed the dishes and checked his work email and tried not to think about how he was failing at everything that mattered. At 8, he convinced Emma to eat half the now cold spaghetti and brush her teeth. She changed into pajamas without arguing and climbed into bed with the stuffed elephant she'd had since she was 3. Am I a bad person? She asked. Logan sat on the edge of her bed. No, Bug. You're a good person who had a bad moment. Brandon's mom is going to hate me now. Brandon's mom doesn't matter. She said Mom was, I know what she said, and she's wrong. Your mom was the best person I ever knew, and nothing Brandon's mom says changes that. Emma rolled onto her side, facing the wall. I miss her so much it feels like my chest is breaking. Logan's throat closed. Me too. Does it get better? He wanted to lie. Wanted to promise that time healed everything, that one day she'd wake up and the pain would be gone. Instead, he said, It gets different. Some days are okay, some days are hard, but you learn how to carry it. I don't want to carry it. It's too heavy. I know, Bug, I know. He stayed until her breathing evened out, then kissed her forehead and went back to the living room. The apartment was quiet except for the radiator and the distant sound of someone's TV through the wall. Logan sat on the couch that was too small and too worn and pulled out his phone. No new emails. No messages. Just the reminder that tomorrow would be another day of routine and reports and trying to hold together a life that felt like it was constantly coming apart. He thought about Avery Monroe, about the way she'd looked at him, like she could see all the broken pieces and wasn't afraid of them, about dry cappuccinos and spreadsheets that told stories, before boring becomes unemployed. Logan laughed, quiet and tired, alone in his small apartment with his sleeping daughter and the ghost of his dead wife in every corner. Tomorrow he'd get up at 5:47, make lunch, fix hair, walk to school, go to work, come home. Repeat. But maybe, he'd stop at Harbor Grounds first, just for the coffee, just to see. Logan didn't plan to go back to Harbor Grounds the next morning. He told himself that on the train ride downtown, while his phone buzzed with Emma's school confirming she'd be allowed back after a one-day suspension and a written apology to Brandon. He told himself that while he stared at his reflection in the dark window, seeing a tired man in a wrinkled shirt who bought coffee for strangers and somehow thought that meant something. But Riverside Roast was still closed, and the Starbucks 3 blocks north still felt like admitting defeat. And Harbor Grounds was just 1 block east, which wasn't really out of the way if he walked faster. So he walked faster. The morning was colder than yesterday, that kind of October chill that made his fingers ache around his empty travel mug. The city smelled like rain that hadn't fallen yet and someone burning toast. Logan's breath came out in clouds that disappeared before he could watch them fade. Harbor Grounds looked the same through the big windows. Same exposed brick, same hanging plants, same scattered people pretending to work while actually hiding from their lives. Logan pushed through the door and warm air hit him like a memory. She was already there. Same table by the window, same laptop open, same posture that suggested she'd been there for hours, or had just arrived and wanted you to think she'd been there for hours. She looked up when the door chimed, met his eyes for exactly 2 seconds, then went back to her screen. Logan ordered his coffee from a different barista this time, a woman with purple hair who smiled too much and called him honey. He paid, stepped aside to wait, and told himself he wouldn't walk over to Avery's table. That would be weird. Desperate. She'd bought her own coffee today anyway, a white cup sitting next to her laptop with lipstick marks on the rim. Large black for Logan. He took his coffee, added cream, and walked directly to her table like his feet had made the decision without consulting his brain. "Morning," he said. Avery glanced up. "You came back. My regular place is still closed." "Right. Renovations." She said it like she didn't believe him. 2 weeks, you said?" "I didn't say, but yeah. 2 weeks. So I should expect you here every morning until November 15th, assuming the construction stays on schedule, which it won't because construction never does." Logan pulled out the chair. "Is that okay?" "Why would I care where you buy coffee?" "You're right. Sorry. I don't know why I asked that." He sat down anyway. "How's your morning?" "Productive. I've been here since 6. "Jesus, why?" "Quiet. No distractions. The office doesn't start making noise until 8:30. Avery closed her laptop an inch, not all the way. "Plus, I like watching the city wake up. Everyone rushing to jobs they hate, pretending they have somewhere important to be." "That's dark. That's accurate." She picked up her coffee. "You're late again." Logan checked his phone. 8:52. "How do you know when I'm supposed to be at work?" "You got here at 9:17 yesterday. Today, it's 8:52. Either your start time is flexible or you're already in trouble." "I'm not in trouble." "Liar." Logan laughed despite himself. "Okay, maybe a little trouble. My boss doesn't love the concept of work-life balance." "Most don't. They think balance is a myth invented by people who aren't committed enough." Avery set down her cup. "Is he right?" "About what?" "Are you committed enough?" The question hit harder than it should have. Logan thought about his cubicle, his 74 daily emails, his spreadsheets that told stories nobody wanted to hear. "I show up. I do the work. I don't know what else he wants." Passion, enthusiasm, the willingness to pretend that logistics consulting matters more than whatever else is happening in your life. Avery leaned back. "He wants you to lie better." "You got all that from me being 20 minutes late?" "I got that from running a company. It's the same everywhere. People perform commitment because actual commitment requires caring, and caring about work most people do is exhausting." Logan took a sip of coffee, let the bitterness sit on his tongue. "Do you care? About your work?" "Yes, but I built it. It's different when it's yours." "What kind of logistics?" "The boring kind. Supply chain optimization for mid-size manufacturers. We analyze their processes, find inefficiencies, implement solutions that save them money they'll spend on executive bonuses." She said it without emotion, like she was reading from a script. "See? Boring." "You don't sound bored." "I'm good at faking things." Something in the way she said it made Logan look at her more carefully. She was wearing a different sweater today, navy blue, same simple jewelry. Her hair was pulled back tighter than yesterday, not a strand out of place. Professional armor. He recognized it because he wore his own version every morning. "Why do you come here?" he asked. "If you own the company, you could work from anywhere." "I like the window. Natural light helps me think." Avery opened her laptop fully now, dismissing the conversation. "Plus, my office has a view of a parking garage and someone's failed rooftop garden. This is better." Logan should leave. He was definitely late now, and sitting here drinking coffee with a woman who analyzed him like a quarterly report wasn't going to make his day easier. But he didn't move. "My daughter got suspended yesterday," he heard himself say. Avery's fingers paused on the keyboard. "The one who drew on your mug?" "Emma." "Yeah." She pushed a kid off a slide. Was he being an asshole? Logan blinked. He's 8. 8-year-olds can be assholes. Was he? He told her that her mom's death was her mom's fault. The words came out flat, clinical. Like if he didn't put emotion behind them, they wouldn't hurt as much. Avery's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. Then he deserved it. She can't go around pushing kids. She can if they deserve it. The world doesn't get better by being polite to people who are cruel. Avery closed her laptop completely now. How did her mom die? Car accident, almost 2 years ago. Drunk driver ran a red light. Logan stared at his coffee. She was coming home from her sister's birthday dinner. I was home with Emma. We were building a blanket fort. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry. Sorry doesn't... He stopped himself. Sorry. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Because I asked, and because you need to tell someone who won't give you the grief counselor speech about healthy coping mechanisms. Logan looked up at her. How do you know about grief counselor speeches? I don't, but I know what people sound like when they're tired of performing recovery for an audience. Avery picked up her coffee, realized it was empty, set it back down. Your daughter pushed a kid because she's angry. She should be. Anger is better than sadness. She's 8. She shouldn't have to be angry. But she is, so let her be angry. Teach her how to channel it into something other than assault, but don't make her pretend she's okay when she's not. Logan felt something loosen in his chest. The school wants her to apologize. Of course they do. Schools hate conflict more than they hate injustice. Avery stood up, gathered her laptop and empty cup. Make her apologize, but tell her she was right to be angry. There's a difference. Where are you going? Meeting at 10. Manufacturer in New Jersey who thinks they can run a warehouse with half the staff they need. She pulled on a coat that probably cost more than Logan's rent. I have to explain why they're wrong using small words and patient tones. Sounds terrible. It's the job. She looked at him for a moment, something unreadable in her expression. Will you be here tomorrow? Probably. Good. The conversation is better than listening to that guy in the corner take conference calls about print margins. She nodded toward a man in an expensive suit who was indeed talking loudly about print margins. Logan watched her walk out, the door chiming behind her, and sat there for another 5 minutes drinking coffee that had gone lukewarm. When he finally left, he was 38 minutes late to work and didn't care nearly as much as he should have. Martin cornered him at lunch. Not actually cornered, just appeared next to Logan's desk with that expression that meant, we need to talk, but I'm going to pretend this is casual. Late start again today? Martin asked. Coffee place was crowded, sorry. Right, listen, Logan, I need those third quarter reports by end of day. Clients getting anxious. Logan gestured to his screen where the reports were already 70% complete. I'll have them done by 4. Great. Martin didn't leave. Everything okay? You seem distracted lately. I'm fine. Because if you need to take some personal time, we can work something out. I know things have been hard since... I'm fine, Logan repeated, harder this time. Reports by 4. Anything else? Martin left. Logan finished the reports by 3:30 out of spite, then spent the last 90 minutes of his workday researching Avery Monroe. Her company was called Vantage Logistics. Founded 6 years ago, 15 employees, clients mostly on the East Coast. Their website was clean and professional and told him absolutely nothing about who she actually was. No social media presence he could find, no interviews, no profiles in business magazines. Just a headshot on the About page that looked nothing like the woman who drank dry cappuccinos and told him anger was better than sadness. Logan closed the browser. Feeling creepy and went home. Emma was on the couch watching cartoons when he walked in, still in her pajamas even though it was almost 6. The apartment smelled like nothing, which meant she hadn't eaten since the cereal he'd left out that morning. "Hey, Bug, you eat lunch?" "Not hungry." Logan sat next to her. "You have to eat." "I said I'm not hungry." "Emma, I wrote the apology letter. It's on the table." She didn't look at him. "Mrs. Chen said I can come back tomorrow if I give it to Brandon." Logan found the letter, written in Emma's careful 3rd-grade handwriting on lined paper. "Dear Brandon, I am sorry I pushed you. It was wrong to use my hands instead of my words. I will try to make better choices. From Emma." It was fine. Appropriate. Exactly what the school wanted. Logan hated every word. He went back to the couch. "You were right to be angry." Emma looked at him. "What?" "When Brandon said that stuff about Mom. You were right to be angry. He was being cruel, and you had every right to be mad." "But I shouldn't have pushed him." "No, but being angry was okay. You're allowed to be angry, Emma. You're allowed to miss Mom and hate that she's gone and want to push everyone who says stupid things about it." Emma's face crumpled. "I miss her so much." Logan pulled her into a hug and let her cry into his shirt until the cartoons ended and the room got dark and his own eyes were wet enough that he had to wipe them on his sleeve. They ordered pizza for dinner. Emma ate 2 slices and fell asleep on the couch halfway through a movie about talking cars. Logan carried her to bed, pulled the blanket up to her chin, and stood there watching her breathe like he'd done every night since she was born. His phone buzzed. Work email. He ignored it. The next morning, Logan got to Harbor Grounds at 8:43, which was late by any standard but felt intentional now. Avery was at her table, same laptop, same posture, but she was on the phone when he walked in. He ordered his coffee and sat at a different table, giving her space, trying not to obviously listen to her conversation. "No, I understand your concerns, but the data doesn't support that timeline." Her voice was patient but firm. "We can have the preliminary analysis done by Friday, but implementation is going to take at least 6 weeks. That's not negotiable." She listened for a while, typed something, made a noise that might have been agreement or frustration. "I appreciate the pressure you're under, but rushing this will cost you more in the long run. Trust me on this." Another pause. "Okay, I'll send over the revised proposal by end of day. Yes, thank you." She hung up and immediately looked at Logan. "How much did you hear?" "All of it. You were loud." "I wasn't loud. You were eavesdropping." "Little bit." Logan picked up his coffee. "Client giving you trouble?" "Client doesn't understand that good work takes time. They want results yesterday, and implementation tomorrow, and somehow think those 2 things are compatible." She rubbed her eyes. "It's fine. I'll make it work." "You look tired." "I am tired. I was here until midnight last night finishing a presentation for a pitch that got canceled this morning." She said it matter-of-factly, no complaint in her voice. "Welcome to entrepreneurship. It's very glamorous." Logan didn't know what made him say it. Maybe the exhaustion in her voice that matched his own. Maybe the way she'd told him anger was better than sadness and meant it. Maybe just the fact that he was tired of eating lunch alone at his desk. "Do you want to grab lunch sometime?" Avery looked at him like he'd suggested something insane. "Why?" "Because we both have to eat and conversation makes it less depressing." "I don't get depressed." "Everyone gets depressed." "Fine. I get strategically melancholy." "Better?" Logan laughed. "So is that a yes or a no?" Avery was quiet for long enough that Logan started planning his retreat. Then she said, "Thursday. There's a place 2 blocks from here that does decent sandwiches. Noon." "Okay, Thursday. Don't be late." "I'm always late." "I know. Try anyway." Thursday morning. Emma went back to school after handing Brandon the apology letter while Logan watched from the hallway. Brandon's mother was there too, arms crossed, expression tight. She didn't look at Logan. He didn't look at her. Emma came back looking relieved and tired and said, "Can we go home now?" "You have school, Bug." "I hate school." "I know. You still have to go." He got to work 45 minutes late and didn't care. Martin sent him 3 passive-aggressive emails about the Henderson account, and Logan responded to exactly none of them. At 11:47, he closed his laptop and left. The sandwich place was called Corner Deli, which was either extremely literal or completely unimaginative. Avery was already there, sitting at a table by the front window with a sandwich that looked like it had every vegetable ever discovered between two slices of bread. "You're early," Logan said, sitting down. "I'm on time." "You're late." "It's 11:58. Noon means noon, not noon adjacent." But she was smiling slightly. "Order something. I'm not eating alone while you watch." Logan got a turkey sandwich and a drink that cost $12 together, which seemed criminal, but he was too hungry to argue. When he sat back down, Avery had her phone out, typing rapidly. "Sorry, client emergency." "The same one from yesterday?" "Different one. This one thinks they can reduce shipping costs by 20% without changing any of their actual processes." She sent the message and put the phone face down. "I'm teaching them about reality. It's not going well." "How'd you get into this? Logistics?" Avery took a bite of her sandwich, chewed thoughtfully. "I was working for a consulting firm out of college. Big one. Lots of clients, lots of bullshit. I was good at finding patterns in supply chains, figuring out where things were breaking. But the company didn't want solutions. They wanted billable hours. So I left and started your own firm and worked out of my apartment for 2 years eating ramen and wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake." She wiped her mouth with a napkin. "But I was right. Companies needed actual solutions, not consulting theater. It grew. Do you like it?" "Most days. Some days I miss having a boss to blame when things go wrong." She looked at him. "What about you? How does someone end up analyzing data for a company they don't care about?" Logan shrugged. "College degree in mathematics, job market in 2016. I applied to 40 places and this one said yes. It was supposed to be temporary." "How long have you been there?" 8 years? That's a very long temporary." "Yeah." Logan ate his sandwich without tasting it. "I used to think I'd do something else. Teach maybe. Or work for a nonprofit, use math for something that mattered. But then life happened. Emma came along, then Sarah, my wife. She was in grad school, so I was the steady income. Then she finished school and got sick, and by the time she got better, we had bills and a mortgage and—" He stopped. He hadn't meant to say that much. "And then she died and you were stuck," Avery finished. "That's cold, but accurate." Logan looked at her. "Does it bother you, being this direct all the time? Does it bother you that I am?" "Sometimes, but also no." He picked up his drink, put it down. "Most people talk around things. You just say them. Life's too short for subtext, especially yours." "Wow. I didn't mean—" Avery stopped herself. "Okay, that came out wrong. I meant you've already lost time. You know how fast things can change. Why waste what you have left pretending?" Logan felt that loosen something in his chest again, the same feeling from their first real conversation. "Is that why you work until midnight? Because you don't want to waste time?" "I work until midnight because I have a pitch meeting on Friday and the presentation isn't done. But sure, let's go with your version. It sounds more philosophical." They ate in silence for a while. The deli was crowded with the lunch rush, people in suits ordering complicated salads and talking too loud about meetings. Logan watched Avery eat her sandwich with the same focused intensity she brought to everything else, like even lunch was something to optimize. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "You're going to anyway. Why did you say yes to this? Lunch. You could have said no." Avery set down her sandwich. "You want the polite answer or the honest one?" "Honest." "I was curious. You bought me coffee for no reason. You told me about your daughter without me asking. You were late to work 2 days in a row just to sit at my table and talk." She tilted her head. "People don't do that. Not for strangers, so I wanted to figure out why you did." "And did you? Figure it out?" "Not yet, but I'm working on it." Logan's phone buzzed. Martin. He ignored it. "You're going to get fired," Avery said. "Probably not. They need me more than they admit." Confident. Realistic. "I'm good at my job even if I hate it." "Then find a different job." "It's not that simple." "It's exactly that simple. You update your resume, you apply to places, you interview, you take a better offer. People do it every day. People without 8-year-old daughters and therapy bills and rent in a city that costs too much." Logan heard the edge in his voice. "Sorry, I'm not trying to—" "Don't apologize. I'm being reductive. It's easier when it's not your life." They finished their sandwiches. Avery paid for both before Logan could argue, said it was a business lunch, even though they hadn't discussed business once. They walked back toward Harbor Grounds together, not talking, just walking through the cold afternoon while the city moved around them. Same time tomorrow? Avery asked when they reached the coffee shop. I thought this was a one-time thing. So did I, but I was wrong. She pulled open the door. I have work to do. Don't be late tomorrow morning. I'm always late. I know, I'm starting to find it charming. She disappeared inside and Logan stood there on the sidewalk feeling like he'd just been given something he didn't know how to hold. The next morning he was 12 minutes late. Avery was reading something on her laptop, coffee already half gone, and didn't look up when he sat down. Morning, Logan said. Is it? Bad day already? The manufacturer in New Jersey decided they don't need our services after all. 3 months of work, gone. She closed her laptop. I'm not bitter. You sound bitter. I'm strategically disappointed. There's a difference. Logan got his coffee and came back to find her staring out the window at nothing. The morning light caught her face the same way it had that first day, softening the sharp edges. Want to talk about it? He asked. No. I want to sit here and drink overpriced coffee and pretend I run a company that doesn't lose clients to budget cuts and corporate politics. Okay. They sat in silence. After a while, Avery said, Emma goes back to school today? Yesterday. It went fine. Brandon's mother hates me, but that's not new. Why does she hate you? Because I exist. Because Sarah died, and I'm still here raising Emma alone, and that makes people uncomfortable. Because they don't know what to say, so they say stupid things and then get mad when I don't smile and say it's fine. Avery nodded like this made perfect sense. People are terrible at grief. They want you to perform recovery on their timeline so they can stop feeling awkward. Exactly. Logan looked at her. How do you know that? I told you. I pay attention. To what? People. Patterns. The things they say when they think no one's listening. She picked up her coffee. You do it too, with your spreadsheets. You find the story everyone else misses. That's different. It's the same thing, different medium. Logan thought about that while she went back to her laptop and typed something that made her frown. The coffee shop filled with the morning crowd, people ordering complicated drinks and having loud conversations about weekend plans. Logan's phone buzzed repeatedly. He ignored it every time. At 9:15, Avery closed her laptop and looked at him. I have to go. Conference call. Okay? But tomorrow, same time. I'll be here. I know you will. She left and Logan sat there until his coffee got cold, then went to work and spent the entire day feeling like he was living in 2 places at once. The routine built itself without them planning it. Every morning, Logan showed up at Harbor Grounds between 8:40 and 8:50, depending on how Emma's hair went and whether she could find both shoes. Avery was always there first, always at the same table, always with her laptop open like she'd been there since dawn. Some mornings they talked about work, about Emma, about the absurdity of clients who wanted miracles on impossible timelines. Some mornings they sat in comfortable silence while Avery typed and Logan pretended to answer emails. Some mornings felt easy and some felt heavy, and neither of them mentioned that this had become something neither could quite name. 2 weeks passed. Riverside Roast reopened with a grand reopening sign and 20% off drinks. Logan walked past it without stopping and went to Harbor Grounds instead. Avery noticed. She always noticed. Your regular place is open again, she said. I know. But you're here. Better coffee. Liar. Logan smiled into his cup. Maybe I like the company. Maybe you're avoiding your actual job by sitting in coffee shops with strangers. You're not a stranger anymore. Something shifted in Avery's expression. No, I guess I'm not. That afternoon she texted him. He hadn't realized they'd exchanged numbers until his phone buzzed and her name appeared on the screen. Networking event tomorrow night. Downtown. Boring people talking about supply chains. Want to come? Logan stared at the message for a full minute before responding. Why would I want to go to that? Because you'll hate it slightly less with someone to make fun of people with. Also, there's free food. Good food, not sad sandwich platters. He shouldn't go. He had Emma and work and a life that didn't include networking events for an industry he didn't work in. But he found himself typing, what time? 7. Dress like you care about business. Send me your address. I'll pick you up. Logan sent his address and immediately regretted it. Then spent the next 24 hours trying to figure out what dress like you care about business actually meant. Emma's babysitter was a college student named May, who lived 2 floors down and charged $20 an hour, which meant Logan was spending $40 to attend an event he didn't want to go to with a woman he couldn't quite figure out. He told himself this was networking, professional development, a chance to understand Avery's world better. He told himself a lot of things while he stood in front of his closet at 6:30, trying to remember the last time he'd worn a tie. The suit was from Sarah's cousin's wedding 4 years ago, back when Logan's life included weddings and occasions, and a wife who knew how to tie a Windsor knot properly. He managed something that looked almost right, then gave up and loosened it enough to breathe. The shirt was wrinkled but passable. The shoes were the same ones he wore to work, scuffed at the toes but hidden under the pants. Emma appeared in his doorway wearing her pajamas, even though it was barely 7. "You look weird," she said. "Thanks, Bug. Why are you dressed up?" "Work thing. May's coming to stay with you." "I don't need a babysitter. I'm 8. "I know, but I need you to have one anyway." Logan checked his reflection one more time, decided he looked like someone playing dress-up, and accepted it. "Be good for May, okay? Homework first, then 1 episode of whatever you want. 2 episodes. 1.5. Deal." Mee showed up at 6:45 with her backpack and a smile that suggested she had no idea what she was getting into. Logan gave her the emergency numbers he'd already texted her twice, showed her where the snacks were, and reminded Emma about bedtime until Emma physically pushed him toward the door. "Go. You're going to be late." "I'm always late." "Then go be late somewhere else." Logan kissed her forehead and left before he could change his mind. Avery's car pulled up at exactly 7. Not a minute before, not a second after. It was a black sedan that looked expensive without being obnoxious, the kind of car that said, "I have money, but I'm not going to shout about it." She lowered the window and looked at him. "You're on time." "May kicked me out early." Logan opened the passenger door and slid in. The interior smelled like leather and something floral he couldn't place. "Nice car. It gets me places." Avery pulled back into traffic without checking her mirrors, which should have been terrifying, but somehow wasn't. "You clean up well." "You sound surprised." "I am. I've only ever seen you in wrinkled button-ups and coffee shop lighting. This is different." Logan looked down at his suit. "Different good or different bad?" "Different interesting." She turned left without signaling, cutting off a taxi that honked angrily. "The tie's crooked, though." "I know. I can't remember how to fix it." Avery reached over at a red light and straightened it with quick, efficient movements, her fingers brushing his collar. Logan stopped breathing for reasons he didn't want to examine. "There. Now you look like you belong at a networking event full of people who take themselves too seriously." "Can't wait." The venue was downtown in one of those historic buildings that had been renovated into something modern, while keeping enough old details to charge premium rental rates. Marble floors, high ceilings, chandeliers that probably cost more than Logan made in a year. People in expensive suits and designer dresses stood in clusters holding wine glasses and laughing at jokes that probably weren't funny. Logan felt immediately out of place. Avery grabbed 2 glasses of wine from a passing server and handed him one. "Rule 1. Always have a drink in your hand. It gives you something to do when conversations die." "What's Rule 2? "Smile like you care what people are saying even when you don't, especially when you don't." She took a sip of her wine. "Rule 3. Stay near me. These people are sharks and you look like prey." Comforting. "I'm not here to comfort you. I'm here to introduce you to terrible people and watch you suffer." It's very entertaining. Before Logan could respond, a man in a suit that probably cost $4,000 appeared next to Avery with the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Avery Monroe. I heard you lost the Jersey contract." "David Chen. I heard your wife left you." Avery's voice stayed pleasant, but her eyes went cold. "We all have our disappointments." David's smile tightened. Still sharp as ever. Still mediocre as ever. He looked at Logan like he was noticing him for the first time. "And who's this?" "Logan Reed, data analyst. Very boring, very good at his job." Avery gestured with her wine glass. "Logan, this is David Chen. He runs a logistics firm that specializes in promising results they can't deliver." "That's not—" David stopped himself. "You always did have a gift for exaggeration. And you always had a gift for disappointing clients. How is the Morrison account?" Oh wait, they fired you last month, didn't they? David's face went red. He muttered something about finding better conversation and disappeared into the crowd. Logan stared at Avery. That was brutal. That was restrained. You should see me when I'm actually trying. She drained her wine and grabbed another glass. David and I used to work together. He took credit for my analysis on a major project, got promoted, then tried to poach my clients when I started Vantage. I don't like him. I noticed. They moved through the room, and Avery introduced him to a parade of people whose names Logan forgot immediately. Everyone seemed to know her, and everyone seemed slightly afraid of her, which Logan found more attractive than he wanted to admit. She navigated conversations like chess matches, always 3 moves ahead, always knowing exactly what to say to either charm or devastate. Logan mostly stood next to her and tried not to look completely lost. Around 8:30, they ended up near the windows overlooking the city. The view was spectacular, all lights and buildings and movement. Logan stood there with his 3rd glass of wine, or maybe 4th, he'd lost count, and watched the traffic below. You hate this, Avery said. I don't hate it. Logan, okay, I hate it, but the wine's good and the food was better than you promised. The crab cakes were exceptional. She stood next to him, close enough that he could smell her perfume over the wine. Thank you for coming. Why did you invite me? Really? Avery was quiet for a moment, watching the city. Because these events are exhausting, and having someone here who doesn't want anything from me makes them slightly less terrible. People want things from you? Everyone wants something. Contracts, connections, opportunities. They smile and make small talk, but they're all calculating what I can do for them. She turned to look at him. You don't do that. Maybe I'm just better at hiding it. You're not. You're terrible at hiding things. Your face shows everything you're thinking. Logan laughed despite himself. What am I thinking now? That you want to leave, but you're too polite to say so. That your tie is uncomfortable and your shoes hurt. That you're worried about your daughter even though you checked your phone 6 times and the babysitter hasn't texted. Avery tilted her head. And that you're trying to figure out why you're here with me instead of home where you're comfortable. You got all that from my face? I told you. I pay attention. A woman in a dress that probably cost more than Logan's car interrupted them, pulling Avery into a conversation about shipping routes and tariff regulations. Logan excused himself and found the bathroom, which was unnecessarily fancy with marble counters and soap that smelled like sandalwood. He checked his phone. No messages from May, which meant Emma was either fine or had burned down the apartment. He sent a quick text asking for an update and got back an immediate thumbs-up emoji. When he came out, Avery was waiting in the hallway. I told Margaret we'd continue the conversation next week. She's boring, and her company is hemorrhaging money, but she doesn't know I know that yet. Avery leaned against the wall. Want to get out of here? Yes, absolutely yes. They left through a side exit that Avery seemed to know about, emerging into an alley that smelled like rain and garbage. The cold air hit Logan's face, and he realized exactly how much wine he'd had. Where's your car? He asked. Valet, but I don't feel like waiting. Avery started walking. Come on. Where are we going? Anywhere that's not here. They walked through downtown, past closed shops and late-night restaurants and groups of people stumbling between bars. The rain had started, light enough that it felt almost nice, cold drops mixing with the wine warmth in Logan's blood. Avery walked fast, heels clicking on wet pavement, and Logan kept pace beside her. That was the worst event I've been to in months, Avery said. Really? That was the worst? David Chen's face when I mentioned Morrison made it slightly better. But yes, terrible. She pulled her coat tighter. Thank you for suffering through it with me. You already thanked me. I'm thanking you again. People don't usually... She stopped herself. Most people at those things want something. You just wanted to leave. It was refreshing. They turned a corner and ended up at a small park Logan had never noticed before. Just a few benches and some trees and a fountain that wasn't running. The rain was coming down harder now, cold and steady. They should find shelter, call a cab, get somewhere dry. Instead, they sat on a bench that was already wet and watched the rain fall through streetlight halos. Can I ask you something? Logan said. You're going to anyway. Why are you still single? Avery laughed, sharp and surprised. That's forward. The wine made me brave. The wine made you stupid. But she was smiling. I'm single because I'm very good at my job and very bad at relationships. I work too much. I'm too direct. I don't perform the emotional availability people seem to need. She looked at him. Why are you still single? I'm not ready. It's been almost 2 years. I know, but ready isn't about time. It's about... Logan struggled for words that made sense. Sarah was it for me. We met in college, got married young, had Emma. I never thought about being with anyone else because I never had to. And now she's gone, and I don't know how to be someone who dates or flirts or starts over. So you buy strangers coffee and pretend it's not flirting. Logan's chest went tight. Is that what I'm doing? I don't know. Are you? The rain fell harder. Logan's suit was getting soaked, his hair dripping into his eyes. Avery's makeup was running slightly, black smudges under her eyes that made her look younger and more vulnerable than he'd ever seen her. I don't know what I'm doing, Logan said honestly. I just know that talking to you feels easier than talking to anyone else has in 2 years. That I look forward to mornings at Harbor Grounds more than anything else in my day. That tonight was terrible, but also not terrible because you were there. Avery didn't say anything, just looked at him with those green eyes that saw too much, rain running down her face. Logan, you don't have to say anything. I know this is... I shouldn't have... He stood up. I should go. Emma's probably still awake, and May's going to charge me overtime, and I'm soaking wet and saying things I can't take back. Avery stood too. What if I don't want you to take them back? Logan stopped. What? The things you're saying, what if I don't want you to take them back? The rain kept falling. The city kept moving around them. Cars and lights, and people living their own messy, complicated lives. Logan stood there in his soaked suit looking at this woman who'd appeared in his life like a pattern he couldn't quite solve. Then I don't know what happens next, he said. Neither do I. Avery stepped closer, close enough that he could see the rain on her eyelashes. But I'd like to find out. She kissed him, or he kissed her. Logan wasn't sure who moved first, but suddenly her mouth was on his, and her hands were in his wet hair, and nothing else existed except the taste of wine and rain and something he'd forgotten he could feel. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Avery laughed. That was... Yeah, Logan agreed. We should probably... Definitely. Neither of them moved. A taxi drove past, splashing water from a puddle. The shock of cold snapped them both back to reality. Avery stepped back, wiping rain from her face. I should get you home. To Emma. Right. Yes. Emma. Logan's brain was trying to restart. Your car's still at the venue. I'll call a cab. 2 cabs. 1 for you, 1 for me. Avery, tomorrow. Harbor Grounds. We'll talk tomorrow. She was already pulling out her phone. When we're sober and dry and capable of making decisions that aren't completely insane? 2 cabs arrived within minutes. Avery gave the driver Logan's address and paid before he could argue. Through the rain-streaked window, he watched her get into her own cab, and then they were moving in opposite directions through the wet city streets. Logan got home to find May on the couch doing homework and Emma asleep in bed with her stuffed elephant. He paid May double, apologized for being later than planned, and stood in Emma's doorway watching her breathe until his heart rate returned to something close to normal. Then he took a shower that was too hot and lay in bed staring at the ceiling while rain drummed against the window. His phone buzzed. Avery. That was unexpected. Logan typed and deleted 3 responses before settling on, good. Unexpected or bad unexpected? The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, I don't know yet. Ask me tomorrow. He fell asleep holding his phone still in his towel and dreamed about green eyes and rain. Morning came too early. Emma was up before his alarm, jumping on his bed and announcing that today was Friday, which meant the weekend was almost here, and could they please go to the park if it stopped raining. Logan groaned into his pillow. What time is it? 6:30. You're going to be late. I'm always late. That's what you always say? Emma bounced harder. Did you have fun at your work thing? Logan thought about networking events and wine and kissing Avery Monroe in the rain like a character in a movie he would have made fun of. It was interesting. Boring interesting or good interesting? Definitely good interesting. He got Emma ready for school on autopilot, his brain still stuck somewhere between last night and this morning. The walk to school felt longer than usual, every block giving him more time to overthink what he'd done and what it meant and what happened now. At the school gates, Emma looked up at him. "You seem weird today." "Weird how?" "Happy weird. You're smiling at nothing." Logan touched his face like he could feel the smile from the outside. "Is that bad?" "No, it's different." Emma adjusted her backpack. "I like different." She ran off to join her friends, and Logan stood there feeling like his 8-year-old daughter had just seen through him completely. The train ride downtown felt endless. Logan checked his phone every 30 seconds, even though he knew Avery wouldn't text. She'd said tomorrow at Harbor Grounds. That meant face-to-face, not hiding behind screens. But when he pushed through the door at 8:47, their table was empty. Logan ordered his coffee and sat down, trying not to watch the door. Maybe she was running late. Maybe she'd had an early meeting. Maybe last night had been a wine-soaked mistake, and she was avoiding him now, regretting everything. 9 o'clock came and went, the coffee shop filled with the usual morning crowd. Man-bun guy made lattes. Purple hair woman called everyone honey. The guy who took loud conference calls talked about print margins again. No Avery. At 9:23, Logan's phone buzzed. "I'm sorry. Client emergency in Philadelphia. Had to leave at 5 a.m. Can we talk tonight?" Logan stared at the message, trying to decode if this was real or a polite brush-off. Before he could respond, another message came through. "I'm not avoiding you, I promise. Last night was... I need to say this in person, not over text. Please." Logan typed back, "Tonight works." "Where?" The response came immediately. "My place? I'll send you the address. 7 p.m.? Okay." Logan put his phone away and finished his coffee, then went to work and spent the entire day accomplishing absolutely nothing while his mind played last night on repeat. Martin stopped by his desk around 3. "Henderson account needs revisions. Can you have them done by Monday?" "Sure." "You feeling okay? You seem distracted." "I'm fine." Martin looked like he wanted to push but didn't. "Okay, just, the revisions are important. Client's threatening to walk." "I'll handle it." The afternoon crawled by. Logan left at 5, went home, fed Emma dinner, and tried to act normal while she told him about a substitute teacher who didn't know the proper rules for Foursquare. May showed up at 6:30 looking amused. 2 nights in a row, must be some work project. Something like that. "You know I charge extra for weekend sitting, right?" Logan handed her 320s. "Emma's homework is done. Bedtime at 8:30. Call me if anything." "We'll be fine. Go to your not work thing." May was definitely smiling now. Avery's address led to a building in a neighborhood Logan couldn't afford to walk through, let alone live in. The doorman asked his name and checked a list before letting him into a lobby that looked like a hotel. Marble floors, modern furniture, actual art on the walls. The elevator took him to the 14th floor. Avery's apartment was at the end of the hall, door already slightly open. "Come in," she called. Logan pushed through into a space that was somehow exactly what he expected, and nothing like it. Modern furniture, clean lines, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, but also books everywhere, papers stacked on the coffee table, a blanket thrown over the couch like she'd been napping. The professional and the personal, mixed together. Avery appeared from what looked like the kitchen, wearing jeans and a sweater, hair down, no makeup. Completely different from the CEO he'd watched command a room full of sharks. "Hey," she said. "Hey." They stood there for a beat too long, neither knowing how to start. "Wine?" Avery offered. "Or have we had enough wine to last us a lifetime?" "Wine's good." She poured 2 glasses and they sat on the couch, careful to leave space between them. The silence stretched until Avery broke it. "I'm not good at this." "At what?" "Talking about feelings, relationships, whatever this is." She took a sip of wine. "I can negotiate contracts and manage clients and run a company, but this..." She gestured between them. "I don't know how to do this." "Neither do I," Logan admitted. "I've been with one person my entire adult life. She died and I thought that was it for me. That I'd spend the rest of my life being Emma's dad and going to work and just existing. And then I bought you coffee and everything got complicated. I noticed you, before you noticed me." Logan looked at her. "What?" "That first day, at Harbor Grounds." You walked in looking lost and tired and like you were going through motions you didn't remember choosing. And when you looked at me, you actually saw me. Not the CEO, not the woman who might be useful, just me. Avery set down her wine. Do you know how rare that is? Avery, I invited you last night because I wanted to see you somewhere else. See if that thing I felt at the coffee shop was real or just, I don't know, morning light and caffeine. She turned to face him fully. And then you stood in the rain and told me talking to me was the easiest thing in your day, and She stopped. Logan waited. I kissed you, Avery finished, and I don't regret it, but I need you to know what you're getting into. I work constantly. I'm not warm or easy or any of the things people want in a relationship. I'll forget to text back and cancel plans and prioritize work in ways that aren't fair. Logan kissed her. Softer than last night, more deliberate. When he pulled back, Avery was staring at him. You talk too much, he said. I'm trying to warn you. I know, but I'm a data analyst. I'm very good at seeing patterns and calculating risk, and I'm choosing this anyway. Logan, I have an 8-year-old daughter who still has nightmares about her mom. I work a job I hate because it pays the bills. I'm carrying grief that doesn't have an expiration date. I'm not exactly a prize either. He took her hand. But for the first time in 2 years, I want something for myself. I want this. I want you. However complicated it is. Avery's eyes were bright. This is a terrible idea. Probably. We're going to hurt each other. Maybe. But maybe we won't. She kissed him again, deeper this time, and Logan stopped thinking about risk and patterns and everything except the feeling of her mouth on his and her hands pulling him closer. They fell back against the couch cushions, tangled together, and for the first time since Sarah died, Logan felt something other than hollow. Later, they ordered takeout and ate it sitting on her floor because the couch had become something else entirely. Avery told him about the Philadelphia client who wanted to restructure their entire operation in 3 weeks. Logan told her about Emma pushing Brandon and the apology letter that felt like a lie. She was right to push him, Avery said, stabbing a piece of orange chicken. You said that already. Because it's true. Sometimes anger is the only appropriate response. Logan smiled. You're very consistent. It's one of my few good qualities. You have more than a few. Avery looked at him over her wine glass. Name 3. You're brilliant. You see through bullshit. You make dry cappuccinos sound like a personality test. That's 2.5. You're beautiful, even when you're being difficult. Especially when I'm being difficult. They finished the food and Avery showed him her tiny office, the spare bedroom she'd converted into a workspace. Whiteboards covered one wall with diagrams and timelines and notes in handwriting that looked nothing like the careful professional version she used in emails. Her laptop sat open on a desk covered in papers. This is where the magic happens, she said. It's a mess. Organized chaos. There's a difference. She picked up a stack of papers and set them down somewhere else, accomplishing nothing. I do my best thinking here. Logan looked at the whiteboards, trying to make sense of the patterns. You map everything out. Helps me see connections, like your spreadsheets. Exactly like my spreadsheets. They stood there in her office mess, and Logan felt something click into place. This woman who analyzed supply chains and found inefficiencies and spoke in calculated risks, she was the human version of the work he did every day. They saw the world the same way, just through different lenses. I should go, he said, even though he didn't want to. Emma's babysitter is probably wondering if I've been kidnapped. Probably. Avery walked him to the door. Tomorrow? Harbor Grounds? Of course. Logan kissed her goodbye, soft and quick, then left before he could talk himself into staying. In the elevator, his phone buzzed. Avery. Tonight was good. He smiled at his phone like an idiot and texted back, Tomorrow will be better. The next morning felt different. Logan woke up before his alarm, got Emma ready without the usual chaos, and arrived at Harbor Grounds at 8:35. Early by his standards, which was basically on time. Avery was already there, because of course she was. But when Logan sat down, she smiled in a way he'd never seen before. Soft, real, just for him. Morning, she said. Morning. They didn't talk about last night, didn't need to. Just sat there drinking coffee while the city woke up around them, and Logan thought that maybe, possibly, he was allowed to have this. something warm in the middle of all the cold, something that felt like hope. 3 weeks passed in a rhythm that felt almost normal. Mornings at Harbor Grounds, lunches when their schedules aligned, evenings at Avery's place after Emma went to bed. Logan stopped questioning whether he deserved this and just let himself have it. Let himself text Avery random thoughts during the day. Let himself look forward to seeing her with an intensity that would have scared him a month ago. Emma noticed, of course. Kids always noticed. "You're on your phone a lot," she said one morning while Logan made her lunch. "Work stuff." "You smile at work stuff now?" Logan looked down at his phone where Avery had just sent him a photo of her coffee with the caption, "Yours is better." "Sometimes work is good." "Weird." Emma grabbed her backpack. "Can May babysit again Friday? Casey's having a sleepover." "You hate sleepovers." "I hate Brandon. Casey's different." She looked at him with those eyes that were too much like Sarah's. "Please?" "I'll ask May." Friday meant another evening free, which meant dinner with Avery at a restaurant that had actual tablecloths and a wine list Logan couldn't pronounce. She wore a dress that made his brain stop working and ordered for both of them in what sounded like perfect Italian. "You speak Italian?" Logan asked. "Spent a summer in Milan during college, manufacturing internship." Avery took a sip of wine. The language stuck better than the tan. "What else don't I know about you?" "Lots of things. I'm very mysterious." But she was smiling. "What do you want to know?" "Everything." So she told him. About growing up in a small town in Pennsylvania where everyone knew everyone's business. About her father who worked in a factory and her mother who taught elementary school. About being the first person in her family to go to college and feeling like she was betraying something by leaving. "Do you go back?" Logan asked. "To visit?" "Twice a year. Christmas and my mom's birthday. My dad died when I was 26. Heart attack at the factory." Avery's voice stayed level, but her fingers tightened on her wine glass. "Mom still lives in the same house, still teaches 3rd grade, still acts like what I do isn't quite real work." "I'm sorry about your dad." "It was a long time ago." She set down the glass. "But thank you." The food arrived and they ate in comfortable silence for a while. Logan watched the way Avery cut her food into precise pieces, the way she tasted the wine before each sip like she was analyzing it. Everything deliberate, everything controlled. "Can I ask you something?" Logan said. "You're going to anyway." "Why me? Really? You could have anyone, someone successful, someone who fits into your world. Instead, you're here with a data analyst who can barely afford this meal." Avery looked at him for a long moment. "You want the truth?" "Always." "Because you're the first person in years who didn't want something from me. Everyone else, colleagues, clients, even friends, there's always an agenda, an angle, something they need." She leaned forward. "But you bought me coffee because you thought I looked focused. You came to that networking event because I asked, not because you wanted to network. You're here because you want to be here, not because I'm useful." "You are useful, though. You're brilliant." "I know. But that's not why you're here." Logan reached across the table and took her hand. "No, it's not." They finished dinner and walked back to her apartment through streets that smelled like rain and exhaust. Avery's heels clicked on the pavement and Logan matched her pace, their hands linked between them like teenagers. Inside her apartment, they didn't bother with wine or pretense, just fell into each other on the couch that had become their spot. And Logan thought that maybe this was what moving forward looked like. Not forgetting Sarah, but making room for something new alongside the grief. Later, lying tangled together while the city lights filtered through the windows, Avery's phone buzzed, then buzzed again, then started ringing. "Ignore it," Logan said. "I can't. Could be important." She reached for it, answered. "This is Avery." Logan watched her face change, professional mask sliding into place even though she was still half-dressed and her hair was a mess. "When did this happen?" Pause. "No, I understand. Yes, I can be there Monday morning, first flight out." She hung up and dropped the phone. "Damn it. What's wrong?" "Seattle client. Major implementation failure. Their whole system crashed and they're blaming our recommendations." Avery sat up, already mentally somewhere else. "I need to fly out Sunday night. Probably be gone all week fixing this mess." "A week?" "Maybe longer. Depends on how bad it actually is versus how bad they're panicking. She turned to look at him. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for your job. I'm apologizing for the timing. She gestured between them. This is new, and I'm already leaving. Logan pulled her back down. Then we have tonight and tomorrow. That's something. But the moment had broken. Avery's mind was already in Seattle, already running through scenarios and solutions. Logan recognized the look because he wore it himself when work pulled him away from Emma. The guilt of being in two places at once and failing at both. He left around midnight. Avery kissed him goodbye at the door and promised to text when she landed, and Logan tried not to think about how a week felt impossibly long. The next morning at Harbor Grounds felt wrong. Avery was there but distracted, laptop open to flight confirmations and hotel reservations. Her coffee sat untouched while she typed rapidly. You should get some sleep before your flight, Logan said. I'll sleep on the plane. Avery, I have 12 emails to send and a presentation to revise before I leave. I don't have time for sleep. But her voice was sharp with exhaustion. Logan didn't push, just sat there working on his Henderson revisions while she typed, both of them together but separate, and tried not to feel like this was practice for something harder. Sunday evening, Logan took Emma to Avery's apartment for the first time. He'd been avoiding it, keeping these two parts of his life separate, but Avery had asked to meet her before leaving, and Logan couldn't think of a good reason to say no. Emma was suspicious from the moment they entered the building. This is fancy. Avery does well. What does she do again? Logistics, supply chain stuff. That sounds boring. She'd probably agree with you. Avery answered the door in jeans and a Columbia University sweatshirt, hair pulled back, packing boxes visible behind her. She looked at Emma and something in her expression shifted, softened. You must be Emma. Emma nodded, suddenly shy in a way she never was. You're Avery. I am. Your dad talks about you constantly. He does? Constantly. I know about Brandon and the slide, about your hatred of sleepovers, about how you can do 8 cartwheels in a row without getting dizzy. Avery stepped aside. Want to come in? Emma looked at Logan for permission. He nodded and she stepped inside, immediately drawn to the windows. Whoa, you can see everything. Pretty good view, right? It's like being in a plane, like... Emma pressed her face to the glass. Dad, look! Logan joined her at the window while Avery went back to packing. The city spread out below them, lights starting to come on as dusk settled. Emma pointed out buildings and streets and the park where they sometimes went on weekends. Do you live here alone? Emma asked Avery. I do. Doesn't it get lonely? Avery paused in her packing. Sometimes, but I'm busy a lot, so I don't notice as much. My dad gets lonely. I can tell even when he pretends he doesn't. Emma said it matter-of-factly, like she was commenting on the weather. Logan's chest went tight. Emma, it's okay, Dad. Everyone gets lonely. She turned back to Avery. Are you my dad's girlfriend? The question hung in the air. Logan started to answer, but Avery got there first. I don't know. We haven't really talked about that. She looked at Logan. What do you think? Logan looked between his daughter and this woman who'd appeared in his life like a pattern he was still learning to read. I think that's something Avery and I should figure out together. But you like her, Emma said. I can tell. Yeah, Bug. I like her. Emma nodded like this confirmed something she'd already suspected, then went back to looking out the window. Avery caught Logan's eye and smiled, and for a moment everything felt right. They ordered pizza because Avery's fridge was empty, and Emma declared this the best apartment she'd ever seen, even though Logan suspected it was the only apartment like this she'd ever been in. They ate sitting on the floor, and Emma told Avery about her school and her friends, and the book she was reading about a girl who could talk to animals. I wanted to talk to animals when I was your age, Avery said. What would you say to them? Probably ask them why humans are so weird. Emma giggled. What do you think they'd say? That we think too much and don't nap enough. Animals have priorities figured out. Logan watched them talk and felt something settle in his chest. Emma liked her. More than that, Emma was comfortable with her in a way she hadn't been with any adult outside of family since Sarah died. That had to mean something. At 7:30, Emma's phone buzzed with a message from Casey's mom about pickup time for the sleepover. Logan checked the address and realized it was across town. I should get her there, he said to Avery. I'll drive you. My flight's not until 10. I have time. They piled into Avery's car and Emma asked 1,000 questions about Seattle and airplanes and whether Avery had ever been to the Space Needle. Avery answered each one patiently while navigating traffic, and Logan sat in the passenger seat feeling like he was watching two parts of his life merge in real time. Casey's house was in a neighborhood that looked like a magazine spread. Perfect lawns, perfect houses, perfect families visible through perfect windows. Emma grabbed her overnight bag and hugged Logan goodbye. Be good for Casey's parents. I will. She looked at Avery. Have a safe flight. Thanks, Emma. And don't let my dad be too sad while you're gone. He gets sad when he's alone too much. Logan's face went hot. Emma. But she was already running toward Casey's front door, waving over her shoulder. Logan watched her disappear inside and wanted to die of embarrassment. She's perceptive, Avery said. She's 8. 8-year-olds see more than we think. Avery pulled away from the curb. Does she know? About us? I don't know what to tell her because I don't know what we are. Logan looked at her. What are we? Avery was quiet while she drove, navigating back toward Logan's neighborhood. Finally, she said, I'm not good at labels, or relationships, or any of this. But I know that I think about you constantly, and I miss you when you're not around, and when Emma asked if I was your girlfriend, I wanted to say yes. So say yes. It's not that simple. Why not? Because Avery stopped at a red light. Because I'm going to Seattle for a week, and when I come back, I'll have another crisis somewhere else. Because my work is chaos, and I'm married to it in ways that aren't fair to you. Because you deserve someone who can show up consistently, and I don't know if I can be that person. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to try. The light turned green. Avery drove in silence until they reached Logan's building, then parked and turned to face him. I want to try. I'm just scared I'm going to fail. Logan took her hand. Then we'll fail together. But we have to actually try first. Avery kissed him like she was trying to memorize the feeling. I have to go. Flight to catch. Text me when you land. I will. Logan got out of the car and watched her drive away. And the apartment felt emptier than it ever had with just Emma gone for one night. The week Avery was in Seattle dragged. They texted when she had time, which wasn't often. Short messages about bad hotel coffee and worse client meetings. Logan sent her photos of Emma's school art project and the new coffee shop near his office that didn't measure up to Harbor Grounds. She sent back exhausted selfies from her hotel room and voice memos about supply chain failures that went over his head. But he listened too anyway, just to hear her voice. Wednesday night his phone rang at 11. Avery, calling instead of texting. Hey, Logan answered. You okay? No, this is a disaster. The client implemented our recommendations wrong and now they're blaming us for their incompetence. And I've been in meetings for 14 hours and Her voice cracked. I needed to hear your voice. Logan sat up in bed. Talk to me. What happened? She told him everything. The technical failures, the finger pointing, the client threatening legal action. Logan didn't understand half of it, but he listened, let her vent, asked questions when she paused. They're idiots, he said when she finished. You gave them a solution and they broke it. That's not on you. Try telling them that. I will. Give me their number. Avery laughed, tired and real. Thank you. I just needed someone who wasn't here to tell me I'm not crazy. You're not crazy. You're brilliant and they're lucky to have you fixing their mess. I miss you. The words hit Logan in the chest. I miss you too. When I get back, she stopped. I want to do this right. You and me. Figure out what this is and stop being scared of it. Okay. Okay? Yeah, okay. They stayed on the phone until Avery's exhaustion won and her words started slurring. Logan told her to sleep and she promised to try. And when they hung up, Logan lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about what doing this right actually meant. Friday afternoon, Avery texted, Crisis resolved. Flying back tonight. Too tired to do anything tomorrow but sleep. But Sunday? Sunday, Logan confirmed. Emma came home from the sleepover full of stories about movies and makeovers and Casey's older brother who apparently knew everything about everything. Logan made her lunch and listened and tried not to check his phone every 5 minutes. Saturday, he cleaned the apartment even though it didn't need cleaning, did laundry, went grocery shopping, took Emma to the park where she immediately found her friends and forgot he existed. He sat on a bench watching her play and thought about Avery sleeping off Seattle in her apartment across town. Sunday morning at Harbor Grounds felt like coming home. Avery was already there, looking exhausted but smiling when he walked in. Logan didn't bother ordering coffee first, just went straight to her table and kissed her in front of the entire coffee shop. "Hi," she said when they broke apart. "Hi yourself." "I'm a mess. I haven't showered, my flight got delayed, and I've been awake for 30 hours. "You look perfect." "Liar." But she was smiling. "Sit. Talk to me about something that isn't supply chains." So Logan told her about Emma's sleepover and the Henderson revisions that had somehow turned into a promotion opportunity Martin had hinted at Friday afternoon. About the weather and the new season of the show Emma was obsessed with and absolutely nothing important. Avery listened with her chin in her hand, eyes half closed, and Logan realized she wasn't just tired. She was content, happy even, in her own guarded way. "Come home with me," she said. "You need to sleep." "I will. After." She stood up, grabbed her laptop. "Please?" Logan followed her back to her apartment and they fell into bed without bothering to undress. Just held each other while Avery's breathing evened out and the afternoon light moved across the walls. Logan lay there listening to her sleep and thought about how strange it was that a month ago he'd been alone and now he was here, and both felt equally real. When Avery woke up, it was dark outside. She blinked at Logan like she'd forgotten he was there, then smiled. "What time is it?" "Almost 8. You slept 6 hours." "I needed 12. But she stretched and sat up. "I'm starving." They ordered Chinese food and ate it in bed while Avery told him the full Seattle story. How she'd proven the implementation failure was the client's fault. How they'd tried to backtrack and blame her anyway. How she'd stood in a conference room and laid out the evidence so clearly they had no choice but to admit their mistake. "You destroyed them," Logan said. "I corrected them. Professionally." "You destroyed them professionally." "Maybe a little." She ate a dumpling. "But they deserved it." Logan's phone buzzed. Emma, asking if she could stay at Casey's again because apparently they were going to the movies. Logan texted back permission and felt only slightly guilty about the relief. "Emma's busy," he told Avery. "Good. That means you can stay." "I was planning to anyway." She kissed him and the food got forgotten for a while. Later they moved to the couch and Avery pulled up a movie neither of them paid attention to. Logan felt the exhaustion from Seattle still in her body, the way she leaned against him heavier than usual. "Can I ask you something?" Avery said during a part of the movie Logan definitely wasn't watching. "Always." "How did you know, with Sarah, that she was the one?" Logan thought about college and study groups and a girl with dark hair who laughed at all his terrible math jokes. "I don't know if I knew. We just fit. Like we'd been built for the same purpose, and finding each other made sense of everything else." "Do you still love her?" The question should have hurt, but it didn't. "Yeah, I think I always will. But it's different now, less sharp, more like," he struggled for the right words, "like a song I used to know all the lyrics to, but now I only remember the chorus." Avery was quiet. "Does that make this easier or harder?" "I don't know yet. Both may be." He turned to look at her. "Why are you asking?" "Because I need to know if there's room for this, for me, or if I'm just temporary, something to fill the space until you figure out how to be alone." Logan's chest went tight. "You're not temporary." "How do you know?" "Because I think about you first thing in the morning. Because Emma asked if you were my girlfriend, and I wanted to say yes. Because when you called from Seattle at 11 at night, that was the best part of my day." He took her hand. "You're not filling space, Avery. You're creating new space. That's different." She kissed him, soft and careful, like she was testing whether the words were real. "I'm scared." "Of what?" "That I'm going to mess this up. That I'll work too much or say the wrong thing, or forget something important, and you'll realize I'm not worth the effort." "You're worth it." "You don't know that yet." "Then let me find out." They fell asleep on the couch, tangled together, the movie playing to an empty room. Logan woke up at 3 a.m. with a crick in his neck and Avery's hair in his face. He should go home, sleep in an actual bed, be there when Emma got back in the morning. Instead, he carried Avery to her bedroom and she woke up just enough to pull him down next to her. "Stay," she mumbled. So he did. Morning came with Avery's alarm at 6, some classical piece that Logan didn't recognize. She groaned and buried her face in the pillow. Turn it off. That's your alarm. I hate my alarm. Logan laughed and turned it off. Don't you have work? Not until 9. I'm taking a slow morning. She rolled over to face him. This is nice. What is? Waking up with someone. I haven't done this in years. Years? 4 years. My last relationship ended badly, and I decided work was safer than people. She touched his face. You made me reconsider. Logan kissed her because he didn't have words for what that meant. They stayed in bed until 7:30, then Avery made coffee that wasn't as good as Harbor Grounds, but was still better than anything Logan could make. They sat at her kitchen counter in comfortable silence while the city woke up below them. I should go, Logan said eventually. Emma's probably wondering where I am. Probably. Avery walked him to the door. Tonight? Can't. Emma has a school thing. Tomorrow? Tomorrow works. She kissed him goodbye, and Logan left feeling like he was walking on something unstable, but not unpleasant, like the ground had shifted and he was still finding his balance. Emma was already home when Logan got there, eating cereal in her pajamas. She looked at him coming through the door at 8 a.m. and raised an eyebrow. Were you at Avery's? Logan's face went hot. Yeah. Did you have fun? Emma, what? I'm asking if you had fun. You're allowed to have fun, Dad. Logan sat down next to her at the counter. You're okay with this? Me and Avery? Why wouldn't I be? She's nice. She's smart. She has a really cool apartment. Emma took another bite of cereal. And you smile more. I like when you smile. I smile. Not like this. Not real smiles. She looked at him seriously. Mom would want you to be happy. Logan's throat closed up. You think so? I know so. Mom wanted everyone to be happy. That's what she was like. Emma finished her cereal and rinsed the bowl. Plus Avery has good taste in pizza toppings. That's important. Logan laughed, despite the tears that were trying to happen. Very important. The week settled into something like routine. Mornings at Harbor Grounds when Avery wasn't traveling, lunches when their schedules aligned, evenings at her place after Emma went to bed, or occasionally at his apartment when Avery wanted to see how the other half lived. This place is tiny, she said the first time she visited. It's affordable. It's a shoebox. A cozy shoebox. Logan handed her a beer because his wine selection was limited to whatever was on sale. Emma's room is actually decent size. Avery walked through the small space, taking in the worn furniture and the photos on the fridge, and Emma's drawings covering one wall. It feels like a home. What does your place feel like? Like a hotel I've lived in for 6 years. She sat on his couch that was too small. This is better. Emma appeared in the hallway wearing pajamas covered in cats. Is Avery staying for dinner? Logan looked at Avery. Are you? What are we having? Spaghetti, Dad's only meal. Emma said it with the authority of someone who'd lived through too many spaghetti nights. Then yes, I'm staying. They ate at the small table that barely fit 3 people, and Emma dominated the conversation with stories about her friend Madison, who'd brought a lizard to school, and the substitute teacher who couldn't pronounce anyone's name. Avery asked questions and laughed in the right places and fit into their small, strange life like she'd always been there. After dinner, Emma declared she was tired and hugged Avery goodnight without being asked. Logan tucked her in and came back to find Avery doing the dishes. You don't have to do that. I made the mess too. Emma made the mess. You were just here. Then I'm being polite. She rinsed a plate. Your daughter is great. Yeah, she is. She looks like you. Same eyes. She acts like Sarah. Same intensity about things. Logan picked up a towel and started drying. She never does anything halfway. They finished the dishes, and Avery looked at her watch. I should go. Early meeting tomorrow. Stay. Logan, Emma knows you're here. She asked if you were staying for dinner, which means she's okay with this. Stay. He took her hand. Please. Avery looked torn. I don't have clothes or a toothbrush. I have extras of both. The clothes might not fit great, but they'll work. She stayed. Slept in one of Logan's old college t-shirts and boxers that she had to tie to keep from falling off. In the morning, Emma found them making breakfast together and just shrugged like this was completely normal. Can Avery help me with my math homework after school? Emma asked. Logan looked at Avery. Can you? I'm busy after school, but I could come by around 6? Deal, Emma said, and that was that. 6 o'clock. Avery showed up with Thai food and her laptop. Emma spread her math worksheet on the table, and Avery looked at it like it was a supply chain problem that needed solving. Okay, show me what you don't understand. Word problems. They're stupid. They're not stupid. They're just teaching you to translate English into math. Here, let's try this one. Avery read the problem out loud. If Sarah has 15 apples and gives away a third, how many does she have left? Emma made a face. That's the problem. I don't know what a third is. A third is 1 divided by 3. So 15 divided by 3 is what? 5. Right. So Sarah gave away 5 apples. How many does she have left? 10. Exactly. See? You know how to do it. You just needed to break it down. Avery moved to the next problem, and Emma followed, asking questions that Avery answered with patience Logan didn't know she had. Logan sat at the counter watching them work and felt something dangerous blooming in his chest. Something that looked like hope. Like maybe this could work. Like maybe he was allowed to have this. Later, after Emma went to bed, Logan found Avery on the couch, staring at her laptop with an expression he knew too well. What's wrong? New client. Boston. They want a site visit next week and a preliminary report by end of month. She closed the laptop. I'm going to be useless for the next 3 weeks. Then be useless. I'll still be here. Logan, I know what I signed up for. The work, the travel, the chaos. I'm not going anywhere. Avery looked at him like she was trying to decide if he meant it. You say that now. I'll say it in 3 weeks too. She kissed him, and it felt like a promise neither of them was ready to make, but both wanted to try. The Boston trip was 2 weeks later. Avery left on a Sunday and texted every night from her hotel, exhausted messages about difficult clients and impossible deadlines. Logan sent back photos of Emma and updates about his own work and tried not to count the days until she came home. Thursday, his phone rang at midnight. Avery, voice tight. I need to tell you something. Logan sat up, instantly awake. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Or maybe everything's wrong. I don't... She took a breath. Do you remember that first day? At Harbor Grounds? Of course. It wasn't an accident. Logan's brain tried to process that. What wasn't? Me being there, you buying me coffee. None of it. Avery's voice was shaking. I need to tell you the truth, and I need you to let me say all of it before you react. Logan's stomach dropped. Okay. Your company was being considered for a project. One of my clients wanted data analysis on their quarterly reports, and your firm came up as an option. I was doing research, looking into the team, and I found you, found your LinkedIn, your professional profile. You looked interesting, so I looked deeper. How deep? Deep enough to know about Sarah, about Emma, about where you lived and where you worked and that you went to Riverside Roast every morning at 8:45. She was talking faster now, words tumbling over each other. And when I saw their renovation notice, I knew you'd need a new place. So I guessed where you might go. Harbor Grounds was close to your office, good coffee, quiet enough. I went there every morning for a week before you showed up. Logan couldn't breathe. You planned it. I planned the location. I didn't plan you buying me coffee. I didn't plan any of what happened after. But that first look, that first conversation, I engineered it, and I've been lying to you for 6 weeks. The silence stretched between them. Logan heard traffic in the background on her end, the ambient noise of a hotel room in a city that wasn't his. Say something, Avery said quietly. I need to think. Logan, I can't do this right now. I just need to think. He hung up before she could respond and sat there in the dark trying to understand what he'd just heard. The coffee shop wasn't an accident. The timing, the table by the window, her being there first, all of it calculated, planned. She'd researched him like a project and manipulated their meeting like a business strategy. His phone started ringing. Avery. He declined the call. It rang again. He turned it off completely. Emma found him in the kitchen at 2 a.m. drinking coffee he didn't want. Dad? You okay? Go back to bed, Bug. What's wrong? Nothing. Adult stuff. Go to sleep. Emma sat next to him instead. Is it about Avery? Why would you think that? Because you look sad, and you only look that sad about important things. And Avery's important. Logan's chest hurt. She lied to me. About what? About how we met. She made it seem like an accident, but she planned it. She researched me and found me on purpose. Emma was quiet for a moment. Why? I don't know. Work maybe? Or, I don't know. Did you ask her? She told me, just now, on the phone. So she stopped lying. Doesn't that count for something? Logan looked at his 8-year-old daughter, who somehow understood people better than he did. Maybe. I don't know yet. Do you still like her? That's not the point, Emma. I think it is. She lied about one thing, but the rest of it, the coffee and the dinners and her helping with my math homework, that wasn't a lie. That was real. Emma put her small hand on his arm. People mess up, Dad. Mom used to say everyone deserves a chance to fix it. Logan felt tears behind his eyes. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just notice more when you're sad. She went back to bed and Logan sat in the kitchen until the sun came up, Emma's words playing on repeat in his head. The rest of it was real. But how did he know? How could he trust anything now? His phone stayed off all day Friday, all day Saturday. Emma asked once if he'd talked to Avery and didn't push when he said no. Work was a blur of spreadsheets and meetings he barely participated in. Martin asked if everything was okay, and Logan lied and said yes. Sunday morning, he turned his phone on. 47 messages from Avery. He read them in order. I'm sorry, I know that's not enough, but I'm sorry. Please let me explain. The whole thing, not just the parts that make me look less terrible. I understand if you don't want to talk to me, but I need you to know that everything after that first day was real. I didn't plan to care about you. I didn't plan any of this. The project fell through. Your company wasn't chosen. So there was no reason to keep talking to you except that I wanted to. I know I should have told you sooner. I was scared. That's not an excuse, just the truth. I'm flying back today. I left you something at Harbor Grounds. You don't have to go, but I hope you do. The last message was from 30 minutes ago. Logan checked the time. Almost 9. He looked at Emma, who was watching cartoons in her pajamas. Bug, I need to go somewhere. To see Avery? Maybe. I don't know yet. You should go. She probably feels really bad. Logan grabbed his coat and walked to Harbor Grounds faster than necessary. The coffee shop was quiet, just a few people scattered at tables. The barista with purple hair smiled when he walked in. You're Logan, right? Yeah. How did you... Woman came in yesterday. Dark hair, scary intense. Said you'd probably show up and to give you this. She handed him an envelope. Logan took it to their table by the window and opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper with Avery's neat handwriting. This time, nothing calculated. Meet me here at noon if you want to hear the whole truth. If you don't come, I'll understand. Below that was an address Logan didn't recognize. He had 3 hours to decide. Logan sat at the window table holding Avery's note, reading it over and over like the words might change if he stared long enough. 3 hours felt like too much time and not nearly enough. He could go home, pretend he never got the message, let this thing between them die quietly. That would be easier, safer. He'd survived losing Sarah. He could survive losing Avery too, except Emma's voice kept running through his head. The rest of it was real. He ordered a coffee he didn't want and watched the minutes crawl past on his phone. People came and went, living their uncomplicated Sunday mornings. The guy with the print margin obsession was back, talking even louder than usual. A couple sat near the door sharing a muffin and looking at each other like they'd just discovered something no one else had ever felt before. Logan remembered feeling like that once. At 11:30, he stood up. His hands were shaking. The address led to a small Italian restaurant in a neighborhood Logan had never been to. The kind of place with checkered tablecloths and photos of someone's grandmother on the walls. It was closed, chairs still up on tables, but the door was unlocked. Logan pushed it open. Hello? In the back, Avery's voice rough like she hadn't slept. He found her sitting alone at a table by the kitchen, 2 place settings already laid out. She looked terrible. hair pulled back in a messy knot, no makeup, wearing the same clothes she'd worn in her last Instagram photo from Boston. Her eyes were red. "You came," she said. "I almost didn't." "I know." She gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit, please." Logan sat but kept his coat on. An exit strategy. "What is this place?" "My uncle's restaurant. He's letting me borrow it for a few hours." Avery's hands were wrapped around a coffee cup. "I wanted somewhere private, where we could actually talk without, I don't know, without an audience. You could have just called me." "You turned off your phone." "Yeah, I did." The silence stretched between them. Avery looked down at her coffee like it held answers she couldn't find. "I don't know how to start," she said finally. "Start with the truth. All of it." Avery took a breath that shook on the way out. 6 weeks ago, one of my clients asked me to recommend a data analysis firm. They had quarterly reports that needed deep analysis, the kind that finds patterns most people miss. I put together a list of companies. Yours was third. Third. Yeah, I was doing background research on all of them, standard due diligence, looking at their teams, their track records, their capabilities. She finally looked at him, and I found your profile. Your LinkedIn had this photo where you were presenting at some conference, and you looked, I don't know, alive, engaged, like you actually cared about what you were talking about. So I clicked through to your company bio. Logan's stomach was in knots. And it mentioned that your wife had passed away 2 years prior, that you were raising your daughter alone, that you'd still managed to lead a major project that saved a client millions. Avery's voice got quieter. I found that interesting. Most people would fall apart, but you kept going. So you what? Decided to stalk me? I decided to learn more. I looked at your social media, what little there is, found old articles about the accident, pieced together your routine from check-ins and tags. She set down her coffee. And I realized we were both in the same city, both in logistics, different angles, both, I don't know. I convinced myself it was professional curiosity. But it wasn't. No, it was personal and I knew it and I did it anyway. Avery's hands were shaking now. I found out about Riverside Roast, drove by one morning and saw you going in, confirmed your schedule. And when I saw their renovation notice, I knew you'd need somewhere else. So I started going to Harbor Grounds. Logan felt sick. For a week. You said you were there for a week before I showed up. 5 days. Monday through Friday. Always at the same table. Always with my laptop. Hoping you'd choose that place. She wiped her eyes roughly. And you did. You walked in looking lost and tired and you bought me coffee without knowing why. And I let you think it was chance. Why? Logan's voice came out harder than he meant. Why go through all that? If it was just about the project, you could have called my office, set up a meeting. He gestured between them. This is insane. I know. So why? Avery was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Because I was lonely. Because I'd spent 6 years building a company, and I was good at it, but I had no one. No friends outside of work, no family nearby. No one who looked at me like I was more than what I could do for them. She looked at him with eyes that were too bright. And I saw you, this person who'd lost everything and kept going, and I wanted to know what that felt like. To be that strong. I'm not strong. I'm barely holding it together most days. But you show up, for Emma, for work, for yourself. You don't quit. Avery's voice cracked. I wanted some of that. So I engineered a meeting and told myself it was professional, that I was just gathering information. But the second you sat down and started talking, I knew I was lying to myself. Logan didn't know what to say to that. Part of him wanted to leave, walk out, and never look back. But another part, the part that had spent 6 weeks getting to know this woman, needed to understand. When did you decide to tell me? 2 weeks ago, after Seattle. I was lying in that hotel room thinking about you and Emma and how I'd never had anything that felt this real, and I realized I'd built it on a lie. She wiped her eyes again. I almost told you that night you stayed over, but I was scared, so I kept putting it off until I couldn't anymore. The project. Did my company get it? No. The client went with someone else. Cheaper bid. Avery laughed bitterly. So all of this? The research, the planning, The manipulation? It was for nothing. There was no professional reason to keep seeing you. I just wanted to. Logan stood up, paced to the window, stared at the empty street outside. His mind was racing, trying to reconcile the woman who'd helped Emma with math homework with the person who'd stalked his routine and manufactured their meeting. Everything after that first day, Avery said behind him. Everything we talked about, everything that happened, that was real. I wasn't pretending. I didn't have some agenda. I liked you. And then I cared about you. And then it was too late to come clean without risking everything. So you waited until you were in Boston to tell me over the phone. I was going to tell you in person, but I couldn't sleep and I kept thinking about you trusting me and I couldn't carry it anymore. Her voice broke completely. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix it, but I'm so sorry, Logan. He turned around. She was crying now, not trying to hide it, tears running down her face while she sat there at her uncle's restaurant looking more vulnerable than he'd ever seen her. I need you to leave, Logan said. Avery's face crumpled. What? Not forever. Just, I need time to think, to process this. I can't do that with you sitting there looking at me like that. Logan, please, I'm not saying no. I'm saying I need time. He grabbed his coat. Go home, get some sleep. I'll call you when I'm ready. When will that be? I don't know. He walked out before she could respond, before he could see her cry harder, before his own resolve could break. The cold air hit his face, and he realized he was shaking. Not from the cold, from everything. He walked. Didn't pay attention to where, just moved through the city, letting his feet make decisions his brain couldn't. An hour passed. Maybe 2. He ended up at the park where he sometimes took Emma, sat on a bench, and tried to figure out what he felt. Anger. Definitely anger. She'd manipulated him, researched him like a target, engineered their meeting and let him believe in fate. But also understanding. She'd been lonely. She'd seen something in him and wanted to know more. She'd made a terrible choice, but she'd also told him the truth before he could find out another way. And beneath all of it, the question that actually mattered. Did the lie erase everything that came after? His phone rang. Emma's ringtone. Hey, Bug. Dad, where are you? You've been gone for hours. Logan checked his watch. It was past 2. Sorry, lost track of time. I'm okay. Did you see Avery? Yeah. And it's complicated. Emma was quiet for a moment. Do you still like her? That was the question, wasn't it? Logan thought about mornings at Harbor Grounds, about networking events and Thai food, and Avery explaining fractions to Emma with infinite patience, about kisses in the rain and quiet nights on her couch, about feeling less alone for the first time in 2 years. Yeah, he said. I do. Then the rest is just details. When did you become a relationship expert? I'm 8. I know everything. She paused. Come home soon, okay? I'm making lunch and it's probably going to be terrible, but you have to eat it anyway. Logan laughed despite everything. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Emma's lunch was indeed terrible. A sandwich with too much mustard and chips that were slightly stale. But Logan ate it and told her it was perfect and let her talk about her weekend plans until he felt almost normal again. That night, after Emma went to bed, Logan sat on the couch with his phone and stared at Avery's number. His thumb hovered over the call button for 10 minutes before he finally pressed it. She answered on the first ring. Logan? Hi. Hi. Her voice was thick, like she'd been crying. I didn't think you'd call tonight. I almost didn't. Logan leaned back against the couch. I've been trying to figure out how I feel about what you did, about all of it. And I'm still angry. What you did it was manipulative and wrong, and it makes me question everything. I know. But, he took a breath. I also keep thinking about Emma, about what she said, that the rest of it was real. Avery was quiet. Was it? Logan asked. The coffee shop conversations and the dinners and meeting Emma. Was any of that real, or was I just a project you couldn't quit? It was real. All of it. Avery's voice was fierce now. The first conversation, maybe that was calculated. But everything after, Logan, I fell for you. actually fell for you, and that terrified me because I didn't plan for it, and I couldn't control it, and I didn't know how to tell you the truth without losing you. You might lose me anyway. I know. She was crying again. But I had to try. I had to tell you the truth and hope that maybe what we built was strong enough to survive it. Logan closed his eyes. I don't know if it is. Then let's find out. Give me a chance to prove that I'm not that person anymore, that I don't want to manipulate or control or plan everything. I just want... Her voice broke. I just want you, however messy and complicated that is. I need conditions. Anything. No more lies, ever. I don't care how small or how hard the truth is. If we do this, we do it honestly. Done. And you have to tell Emma what you did. If we're going to try this, she needs to know the whole story. Not now, but eventually. Avery was quiet for a moment. That's fair. And I need time to rebuild trust. This doesn't just go back to normal because you apologized. I understand. Logan sat there in his dark apartment listening to her breathe on the other end of the line. I'm scared. Me too. What if this doesn't work? Then at least we tried. At least we were honest about trying. That was the thing about Avery, Logan realized. Even when she was vulnerable, even when she was wrong, she was still direct, still faced things head on instead of hiding. Okay, he said. Okay? Let's try, but we start over. Actually start over. No history, no baggage from the manipulation, just two people who met at a coffee shop and decided to see what happened next. Logan, I mean it. You want to prove this is real? Prove it. Show me that what we have is worth rebuilding from scratch. Avery took a shaky breath. How do we do that? I don't know yet, but we figure it out together. They stayed on the phone until nearly midnight, not talking about anything important, just the sound of each other existing on opposite ends of the line. When they finally hung up, Logan felt exhausted, but something else too. Not hope exactly. More like possibility. The next morning, he showed up at Harbor Grounds at 8:45, their usual time. But instead of sitting at their table, he got his coffee and sat somewhere else. A table near the back, away from the windows. Avery arrived 10 minutes later. She saw him immediately, confusion crossing her face. Logan gestured to the empty chair across from him. She sat down slowly. Different table. Fresh start means fresh table. Right. She set down her coffee. So what now? Now we have coffee, like two people who are getting to know each other. Logan took a sip. Tell me something I don't know about you. Avery thought about it. I'm terrified of birds. All birds. Even pigeons. Why? Got attacked by a goose when I was 6. Traumatized me for life. She smiled slightly. Your turn. I wanted to be a teacher. Before Sarah got sick, before Emma. I thought about teaching high school math, helping kids who thought they were bad at it realize they just needed a different explanation. Why didn't you? Life got in the way, bills and responsibilities and practical concerns. He set down his coffee. But sometimes I still think about it, whether it's too late to change direction. It's not. You're 32. You've got decades to change direction if you want to, says the woman who started a company at 28. 26, actually. I lied on the website to seem older. Avery's smile was real now. See? Honesty. I'm practicing. They talked for an hour, about small things and big things, and nothing that really mattered except that they were talking. When Logan finally left for work, 30 minutes late as always, it felt different. Lighter somehow. The pattern rebuilt itself slowly. Coffee every morning, but at different tables. Lunch when their schedules allowed, but at new restaurants neither of them had been to before. Evenings apart more often than together, giving each other space to breathe. Emma noticed the change. You're being weird with Avery. Weird how? Careful, like you're both scared the other one is going to break. She looked up from her homework. Did something happen? Logan sat down next to her. We had a disagreement about trust. We're working through it. Is it bad? It was. But we're trying to fix it. Emma chewed on her pencil. Mom used to say that trying is the hardest part, that giving up is easy, but trying means you care enough to be scared. Logan's chest went tight. She was right. She usually was. Emma went back to her homework. I think you should keep trying. Avery's good for you, even when you're being weird and careful. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. Logan and Avery moved around each other like they were learning new choreography, finding the rhythm again, but different this time. More honest, more vulnerable. One night, Logan brought Emma to Avery's apartment for dinner. They ordered pizza again, and Avery helped Emma with her science project about the water cycle. Watching them work together, Avery explaining evaporation and condensation, while Emma asked 1,000 questions, Logan felt something click back into place. After Emma fell asleep on the couch, Logan and Avery sat on the floor with wine, not talking, just existing together in the quiet. Can I ask you something? Avery said. Always. Do you trust me again? Even a little? Logan thought about it. Really thought. I'm getting there. It's not all the way back, but it's more than it was. That's enough for now. Is it? It has to be. Because rushing it won't help. We have to build this the right way, even if it's slow. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I'm sorry. I know I keep saying it, but I need you to know I mean it. I know you do. Logan took her hand. And I'm sorry too, for shutting down, for needing so much time to process. You're allowed to need time. I broke something and you're fixing it. That's not fast work. They sat there until Emma stirred on the couch, mumbling about clouds. Logan carried her to Avery's guest room and tucked her in, then came back to find Avery still on the floor, crying quietly. Hey, he sat down next to her. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything. She wiped her eyes. I almost lost this. You and Emma and this feeling of having people who matter. I almost destroyed it before I realized what I had. Logan pulled her close. But you didn't. You told the truth and we're working through it. That counts for something. Does it count enough? I don't know yet. Ask me in another month. Avery laughed through her tears. A month? Okay, I can wait a month. But it didn't take a month. 3 weeks later, Logan showed up at Harbor Grounds and found Avery already there at their old table by the window. Not the new tables they'd been using. The original one. He sat down across from her. Back to the old spot? I was thinking maybe we're ready. To stop starting over and just continue. She looked nervous. Unless you think it's too soon. Logan thought about the past 6 weeks. The careful conversations and the slow rebuilding. The way they'd learned to be honest even when it hurt. The way Emma had folded Avery into their lives like she'd always been there. I think we're ready. Avery's smile was like sunrise. Yeah? Yeah. He took her hand across the table. But I need you to know something. Okay. I'm always going to remember how this started. The manipulation, the lie, all of it. I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen. Avery's smile faded. I understand. But, Logan squeezed her hand, I also know that people are more than their worst decisions. You made a terrible choice, but you owned it. You told the truth when you could have kept lying. You gave me space when I needed it. That matters. Logan, I'm choosing this. Not because I've forgotten what you did, but because I've seen who you are when you're honest. And that person, the one who helps Emma with homework and calls me at midnight from Boston and cries on her kitchen floor, that's the person I want. Avery was crying again, but smiling too. I don't deserve you. Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway. She kissed him across the table and the coffee shop went quiet in that way spaces do when something private happens in public. When they broke apart, the guy with the print margin obsession was staring. Logan didn't care. That night, Logan made dinner at his apartment while Avery and Emma set the table. They ate as a family, and it felt natural now, like they'd been doing this for years instead of months. After dinner, Emma declared she was taking a bath and disappeared, leaving Logan and Avery alone with the dishes. She did that on purpose, Avery said. Definitely. She's not subtle. Logan rinsed a plate. But I'm glad. I wanted to talk to you. About? The future. What this looks like long term. He set down the plate. I need to know you're serious about this. About me and Emma. Because if you're not, if this is just something temporary while you figure out what you actually want, I need to know now. Avery turned off the water and faced him fully. I'm serious. More serious than I've been about anything that wasn't work in 10 years. Even when it's hard, When I'm dealing with grief or Emma's having a bad day or my job is suffocating me? Especially then. I don't want the easy version of you, Logan. I want all of it. The mess and the grief and the 8-year-old who asks impossible questions. She stepped closer. I want the life you've built, and I want to be part of it, if you'll let me. Logan kissed her, soft and certain. I'll let you. Emma appeared in the doorway wearing pajamas and a knowing smile. Are you guys done being gross? I want to watch a movie. They watched a movie about talking animals that Emma had seen a dozen times but never got tired of. Avery sat between them on the couch, Emma leaning against one side and Logan's arm around her shoulders on the other. And Logan thought about how strange it was that something that started with a lie had become the most honest thing in his life. A month later, Avery got a call about a major contract in Chicago. 6 months of work, huge opportunity, the kind of project that could make or break Vantage Logistics. She took the meeting, heard the pitch, and turned it down. Logan found out when she mentioned it casually over coffee. Wait, you said no to Chicago? Yeah, the timeline was impossible, and it would have meant being gone more than I was here. I'm not doing that. She took a sip of her cappuccino. I have priorities now that aren't work. Avery, don't. I know what you're going to say, that I shouldn't give up opportunities for you, but this isn't giving something up. This is choosing something better. She looked at him seriously. I've spent 6 years building a company. It's successful. It's stable. Now I want to build a life with you, with Emma. That matters more than a contract in Chicago. Logan didn't know what to say to that, so he just kissed her there in Harbor Grounds at their table by the window and thought about how far they'd come from that first calculated meeting. That night he asked her to move in with him. She said yes. The moving process was chaos. Avery had 6 years of accumulated stuff that didn't fit in Logan's tiny apartment. They donated most of it, kept what mattered, and somehow made it work. Emma got to help decorate and declared Avery's old office furniture way better than Dad's boring stuff. 3 months later, they found a bigger place. Still not fancy, but bigger. With a real office for Avery and a bedroom for Emma that had space for sleepovers. With a kitchen table that fit 4 people instead of barely fitting 3. Emma invited Casey over to see the new place, and Logan heard them in Emma's room talking about how cool it was that she basically had 2 parents again. The words hit him hard in a good way. That night, after Emma was asleep and Avery was working late on a proposal, Logan stood in their bedroom, shared space, shared life, and called his mother. Hi, sweetie. How are you? I'm good, Mom. Really good. He sat on the bed. I wanted to tell you something. Okay. I'm dating someone. Her name's Avery. We've been together almost 6 months now. He took a breath. And I think I'm in love with her. His mother was quiet for a moment. Does Emma like her? Emma loves her. They're 2 of a kind. Both stubborn, both smart, both ask too many questions. And you're happy? Yeah, Mom. I am. Then I'm happy for you. Her voice got thick. Sarah would be happy too. You know that, right? She'd want you to find someone. To not be alone. Logan's eyes burned. I know, but it feels weird sometimes, like I'm betraying her memory. You're not. You're living. That's what she'd want. For you to live and be happy and give Emma a full life. His mother sniffled. When do I get to meet this Avery? Soon. I'll bring her home for Thanksgiving if you want. I want. And bring Emma too. I haven't seen my granddaughter in too long. They talked for another hour about nothing important and everything that mattered. When Logan hung up, he felt lighter. Avery came home around 11, exhausted but smiling. Proposal's done. Client's gonna love it or hate it. Either way, I'm not thinking about it until tomorrow. I told my mom about you. Avery froze in the middle of taking off her coat. You did? Yeah, she wants to meet you. Thanksgiving. Logan, that's big. I know. But we're doing this, right? Actually doing this. Which means you meeting my family, and me eventually meeting your mom, and all the messy, complicated parts of building a life together. Avery hung up her coat carefully. I'm terrible at meeting parents. You'll be fine. My mom's gonna love you. How do you know? Because I love you, and she trusts my judgment. The words hung in the air between them. Logan hadn't meant to say it like that, hadn't planned this moment. But there it was. Avery stared at him. What did you just say? I love you. I know we haven't said it yet, and maybe it's too soon, but I... She kissed him hard enough to stop the words. When she pulled back, her eyes were wet. I love you too. I've loved you for months, but I was scared to say it. Scared I'd mess this up like I messed up the beginning. You didn't mess it up. You fixed it. Logan pulled her close. We fixed it. Together. They stood there in their shared bedroom in their new apartment, holding each other like they were the only solid things in a shifting world. And maybe they were. Thanksgiving with Logan's family was exactly as awkward as Avery feared and somehow perfect anyway. His mother cried when she met Emma. His sister asked Avery 1,000 questions about logistics and supply chains. His nephew followed Emma around like a puppy. And through all of it, Logan watched Avery navigate his messy, complicated family with the same direct honesty she brought to everything else. On the drive home, Emma fell asleep in the back seat and Avery held Logan's hand across the center console. Your mom likes me, she said. I told you she would. She also gave me the talk. Logan glanced at her. What talk? The don't hurt my son talk. Very polite. Very firm. Very clear that if I break your heart, she'll find me. Avery smiled. I liked her. She's protective. She should be. You're worth protecting. Avery squeezed his hand. Thank you for bringing me, for including me in your family. You are my family. You and Emma. That's everything to me. I know, it's everything to me too. December came cold and sharp. Emma's school had a winter concert where she sang off-key and Logan and Avery cheered like she'd just performed at Carnegie Hall. Avery's company landed a major contract that would carry them through the next year. Logan finally worked up the courage to talk to Martin about the teaching idea, and Martin surprised him by being supportive. On Christmas morning, Emma opened presents in their living room while Avery made hot chocolate that was too sweet, and Logan took photos he'd look at for years. At some point, Emma looked up from her new books and said, This is the best Christmas. Better than Disney World 2 years ago? Logan asked. Way better, because everyone I love is here. The simple truth of it hit Logan in the chest. Everyone she loved, which now included Avery, which meant they'd actually done it. Built something real and lasting from broken pieces and honest trying. That night, after Emma crashed hard from sugar and excitement, Logan and Avery sat on their couch in the dark, with just the Christmas tree lights glowing. I've been thinking, Avery said. About telling Emma, the whole story, how we met. She turned to look at him. She's old enough to understand, and I don't want there to be secrets, not anymore. Logan thought about that. You sure you're ready? It's not going to be easy explaining. I know, but she deserves the truth, and I'd rather she hear it from us than find out some other way and feel betrayed. Okay, we'll tell her together, after New Year. Give her some time to enjoy the holidays first. They told Emma on a Sunday afternoon in January, sat her down at the kitchen table and explained the whole thing. How Avery had researched Logan for work, how she'd planned their first meeting, how she'd lied by omission for weeks before finally confessing. Emma listened to all of it, her face serious in a way that made her look older than 8. When they finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, That was a really dumb thing to do. Avery laughed despite herself. Yeah, it was. But you told the truth eventually, and Dad forgave you, and now we're a family. Emma looked between them. So I guess it worked out. That's it? Logan asked. You're not mad? I mean, it's weird and kind of creepy that you stalked Dad. Emma wrinkled her nose at Avery. But you're nice now, and you make Dad happy, and you help me with homework, so I guess I forgive you too. Avery's eyes were wet. Thank you, Emma. That means a lot. You're welcome. Can I go watch TV now? Yeah, Bug. Go ahead. Emma left and Logan and Avery sat at the table in stunned silence. That went better than expected, Avery said. She's 8. Her forgiveness threshold is lower. Logan took Avery's hand. But she meant it. You can tell. I don't deserve you to. Stop saying that. You do. You've earned it by being honest and showing up and choosing us over easier things. He kissed her hand. You deserve all of it. Spring came slowly and then all at once. Emma turned 9 with a party at a roller skating rink where Logan fell twice, and Avery proved surprisingly good at skating backwards. Logan officially enrolled in a teaching certification program that would let him transition careers over the next 2 years. Avery promoted one of her employees to manage day-to-day operations so she could focus on strategy and spend less time traveling. They were building something, not perfect. They still fought sometimes, still had bad days where old insecurities surfaced. But they were building it honestly, with clear eyes and open hands. One Sunday morning, Logan and Avery were back at Harbor Grounds, their table by the window, drinking coffee and reading the news on their phones. Emma was at a friend's birthday party. The world was quiet. "Do you ever think about how we started?" Avery asked. Logan looked up. "Sometimes." "Why?" "Because I was thinking about it this morning, how I engineered our meeting and thought I was so smart, so in control." She set down her phone. "And how completely wrong I was. Because you can't engineer love. You can't manipulate someone into being the right person. It just happens or it doesn't." And it happened. It happened, despite my best efforts to ruin it before it started. She reached across the table. "I'm glad you gave me a second chance. I'm glad you told me the truth." They sat there holding hands across the table where they'd first really talked, where Logan had bought her a cappuccino and thought it meant nothing, where Avery had looked at him and realized her careful plan was already falling apart. The coffee shop moved around them. The barista made drinks. Customers came and went. The city kept spinning, and Logan thought about fate and choice and how sometimes the worst beginnings led to the best endings, if you were brave enough to be honest. About how grief didn't disappear, but it made room for new things if you let it. About how his daughter was learning that people made mistakes, but what mattered was how they fixed them. He thought about Sarah and the life they'd built together, and he thought about Avery and the life they were building now, and he realized he was allowed to love both, to hold both stories in his heart without one erasing the other. "What are you thinking?" Avery asked. "That I'm happy. Actually happy, for the first time in a long time." "Me too. And that we should probably leave before we get too sentimental and I start crying in public." Avery laughed. "Can't have that. You've got a reputation as a stoic data analyst to maintain." "Exactly. Very serious, very professional." They left Harbor Grounds hand in hand, walking into a Sunday afternoon that looked like every other Sunday but felt different somehow. Felt like hope. Felt like home. And maybe that was the thing about starting with a lie. It taught you the value of truth. It showed you that love built on honesty, even painful honesty, was stronger than anything built on pretense. It proved that people could change and grow and choose to be better. The coffee shop that wasn't an accident had become the place where two broken people learned to be whole together, where a single father and a lonely CEO had found something neither of them knew they were looking for. And in the end, maybe that was the only truth that mattered.